ESPN on YouTube and on Twitter. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning, he's got the day off. Yes, no Josh today, so we'll ride solo for the 4 or so hours that we have together. But that being said, we got a good guest lineup for you as always. Our buddy Frank Close has his Phillies mailbag for you coming up at 3 o'clock, at 2:40 today. Coming up at 3 o'clock today, we got college football this weekend. Jeff Nadeau will tell us how to bet the college football games, which get underway on Saturday. We've got Nebraska, Illinois, Hawaii, UCLA, a couple of others. He will give you some insight on how to bet the college football games for Saturday with Jeff coming up later on in the show. Also, we've got a busy football show for you today. The Eagles back at joint practices with Jets. They're getting ready for their Friday night tilt over at the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium. We got the insight for you there. Jalen Hurts, will he play? Will he not? More on that coming up here on the show. Got some thoughts on Ben Simmons and the Sixers to get to as well, plus a Tuesday with Thompson. Rob Motti is here. So it's a busy show. And today, Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles defensive coordinator, he had a press conference, had some interesting things to say regarding his defense. One thing about Ryan Kerrigan I want to dive into just a little bit. Also, McPherson, who was struggled a little bit in the game the other night, as Jeff Mosher kind of chronicled, very grabby in the game on Thursday night. We'll dive into his role. And some of the guys, that need to kind of stand out for the Eagles this season, for them to kind of surprise. The Athletic did 25 nuggets you need to know for this season coming up. And on the list at number 23 was something regarding the Eagles. And it says this: the Eagles' offense was more mediocre than terrible last year with Jalen Hurts. That's an interesting comment there. Why do I highlight that at the start of the show? Right? Why do I highlight that comment at the start of the show? That the Eagles' offense was more mediocre than it was terrible. That is the exact comment from the Athletic. And I say that because the expectations for this season seemingly aren't all that good, right? I think if you ask most people, what do you think of this Eagles season? Most people will tell you the expectations are not very good, very tepid, to be honest. I've seen everywhere from like 6, 7, 8 wins. I don't see too many people going over the 8-win number. And I'd reflect back to last season, where the Eagles were pretty terrible. And one of the reasons they were pretty terrible is because offensively, they were absolutely wretched. And in this same article that looks for nuggets from last season, or nuggets for the season coming up ahead here, the Athletic posts 25 of them. And number 7 on this list has to do with Carson Wentz, who essentially stunk last year. And he is on pace to be the week 1 starter for the Indianapolis Colts with that foot injury. It looks like he will be back and ready to go for week 1. But here's what it said. And when you hear this gives you an indication, because something I said before I went on the trip to the World Series last week. So one of my last shows before I left for the World Series, whenever that was. I've lost track of days, time, and all that good stuff. But that being said, the Eagles were 3-6-1 in 1-score games last year, right? 3 wins, 6 losses, 1 tie in 1-score games last year. That means 10 of their 16 games came down to 1 score. And when your quarterback is the worst player on the field, it's hard to win those games. He fumbled a league high 58 times over the past 5 seasons. And last year, he turned the ball over at almost a record pace. So when you read number 7, that the most likely scenario is for Carson Wentz is that he's just mediocre, it tells you all you need to know about the struggles of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2020 and why they might exceed expectations in 2021. And it goes back to number 23 on this list at The Athletic, which is the Eagles' offense was more mediocre than terrible last year with Jalen Hurts. You're 3-6-1 in one-score games with a terrible offense. Terrible was the word that was used to describe the offense last season when Jalen Hurts didn't play. So if you just had a mediocre offense, wouldn't the team potentially be better in those one-score games? They would almost have to. When Jalen Hurts played, the Eagles' offense was the 21st offense in the league. Not good, mediocre. When Wentz played, they were 31st. Terrible. Second worst in all of football. My God, who was actually worse than them? Probably the Jets, actually, would be my guess. One of the areas that the Eagles excelled in was when Jalen Hurts took off. He ranked second in the league among players who had at least 60 carries last year. He had success on 57% of those plays. When he carried the ball, that play had success 57% of the time. So one area where the Eagles will be better is that Hurts makes things happen, things that Wentz could not do. If the Eagles' offense, and Sal Powell was on our show, I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was somewhat in the last month or two, which essentially suggested that if the Eagles just got average quarterback play, they probably would have been, average. Now, average isn't what we're striving for, but I think we should all agree that this team's roster should be better than the roster that they had last year. Do we agree with that? 609-403-0973 is your text board, 609-403-0973. Download the free mobile app and message us through the app. Hit the message us button, and you can get your voice heard here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Couple ways to get involved. Watch the show live on YouTube and Twitter. If you're in the video chat, you can leave your comment in the comments section if you're watching the show there. If you're listening on the app, 973ESPN.com/app, hit the message us button, and you can get your message to the Matt Blatt Kia Studios, or you can use your phone and text us at 609-403-0973. If I said to you, the Eagles' offense would be mediocre this year, would that change your outlook for this season? Now, I have been on record saying multiple times that as long as the Eagles' offensive line is healthy, it's a big if. I get that. I get the fact that they have older guys on that offensive line, and there's a good possibility that they're not healthy. But they're going to enter the season essentially healthy, right? They're essentially going to be healthy when they start this season because they're not going to play anybody on Friday against the Jets. So they're going to reach the regular season with the 5 guys that they won. I mean, unless something crazy happens, not crazy. I mean, somebody gets hurt. People get hurt. That's what happens in the practices, in the joint practice sessions, because the Eagles will probably, I could be wrong. I'm just going with what I think. I don't think the Eagles will play their starters on Friday. Maybe they will, very minimal. Irregardless, they should start the season with Jordan Mailata at tackle, Isaac Seumalo at left guard, Jason Kelce at center, Brandon Brooks at right guard, and Lane Johnson at right tackle. If they play those 5 guys, and those 5 guys can play a majority of the season together, this team should have a winning record. That's right. I said it. If that offensive line stays healthy and intact for, I say a majority, I don't know, 12 games together, 13 games together, if they can play together Now, when I say together, if one guy gets hurt, let's say Mailata gets hurt and misses 3-4 games and Dillard has to play, that's okay. Let's say Lane Johnson misses 2-3 games and only Jack Driscoll has to play, but he's playing with the other group of guys. They should be fine. It's what I'm talking about is what happened last year, where this guy got hurt and then that guy got hurt and then this guy got hurt. So you had to move that guy from here to there to compensate for losing that guy over there. You can't have that happen. But if those 5 guys play together, a majority of the snaps, this team will have a winning record. I don't know that that's a playoff winning record. I don't know that that's a deep run to the Super Bowl winning record, but a winning record, 9-8, 10-7. 10-7 for me is about as far as I'll go. That is my highest of high expectations. What is yours? What is your highest of high expectations for this group? Like, I can't picture them winning more than 10 games. That, to me, is the height of the success of this season. I could see this team best case scenario. Okay? Give me your best case scenario, meaning health, things go their way, all of that stuff. I have 10 wins being probably at the top of the ledger. I would be pretty shocked. Now, if you said at the end of the year, what would shock you? More than 10 wins, 2 playoff wins. If they made the playoffs with 10 wins, I would not be shocked. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. I see some text messages coming in. If you're listening on the free mobile app, hit the message us button. Get your messages sent to the studios. Also, if you're watching the show live, you can message us there as well. Lots of ways to get on board, but I was thinking about this because I saw this. I was reading this the article on The Athletic, and if you don't subscribe to The Athletic, very good stuff. They do a great job covering the Eagles and the NFL and all sports. I mean, they do a great job on the Sixers and the Phillies, Flyers, but this happened to be an NFL article. 25 NFL nuggets you need to know before the season starts. And we'll kind of read through them throughout the show today and kind of give you our thoughts and opinions on them. The Eagles' offense was more mediocre than terrible last year, was number 23 on the list. So, in other words, when Hurts played, the team was actually somewhat mediocre, right? That's essentially the offense, I should say. The offense was somewhat mediocre. Now, being mediocre is not great, but being terrible, you can't win being terrible. You just cannot win with what they gave you offensively last year. And coupled with, as I said, in one-score games, I think this is the big number. This is where, about a week or two ago, it had to be 2 weeks ago. I wasn't here last week. So it had to be 2 weeks ago. ESPN.com ranked the teams that finished in last place last year on who can go from worst to first. And the Eagles, I think, were number 3 on the list. They had the third best chance of going from worst to first. Now, if you watched Jacksonville at all last night, that team's not going from worst to first, right? They were horrendous last night, and they played their starters. Lawrence threw 23 passes last night. San Francisco would be my pick. I think San Francisco has the best shot of going from worst to first. If you look at the teams from a year ago that finished in last place, who has the best chance from going from worst to first? Now, today, over at ESPN.com, Bill Barnwell has 5 NFL teams most likely to improve this season. And on that list of the 5, he lists the Atlanta Falcons, who went 4-12 last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who went 1-15 last year. You almost have to improve, right? The San Francisco 49ers. I think that's the team right there. Their projected strength of schedule is the 3rd easiest in football. Philadelphia, 4-11-1. He has them on this list. Projected strength of schedule as the 8th easiest in football. Now, there are things all over the place. The Eagles have this hardest schedule. This is one thing we know is their schedule this year is a lot less difficult than the one they had last year. That we know. Whatever it is, the easiest, the fifth easiest, the eighth easiest, the sixth easiest, it is not as daunting as the schedule they had last year. Why? Because they have a last place schedule. They play a couple of teams that bottomed out like they did last year. So there's 2 games on that schedule that are certainly going to be lighter than what other teams in your division have. 609-403-0973. Dan from EHT chimes in and says, Mike, the season worries me because we haven't had a new regime coaching staff start a season without a legit quarterback of the future intact. Reed had McNabb, Kelly had Vick, Peterson had Wentz, Sirianni has Hurts. Well, I mean, first off, Reed had McNabb. He drafted him. He started with Peterson, if you remember, actually. But yes, he did get McNabb. I wouldn't say Michael Vick was the quarterback of the future. He was the quarterback of the right now. And if you remember, they had Nick Foles then too. So Vick and Foles kind of had a training camp, quote unquote, battle that I never thought was a battle. I just thought they gave the job to Vick, which turned out to be a good decision. But Vick was not the quarterback of the future. Peterson had Wentz. And look, Wentz was the second pick in the draft. McNabb was the second pick in the draft. Vick was the first pick in the draft. So those guys had high pedigree. You're absolutely right about that. But Sirianni does have, it's not like he's got some journeyman vagabond. They've got a young player who was a second-round pick who had a lot of college success. Now, college success doesn't necessarily mean you're going to come into the NFL and have success. But this isn't a guy that's coming from Miami of Ohio from a 500 team. The guy played at Oklahoma and Alabama and won national championships. So I feel fine with where the quarterback situation is. But the biggest question is they need to find out about the quarterback. They have to find out if he is the guy. Mike, you make a great point. How good is the O-line? Wentz and Foles aren't very good. The line and great running backs won that Super Bowl. Well, I disagree with that. Wentz was fantastic in 2017. Foles played maybe the best football ever, his best football ever for a stretch there. Or I should say a game. He was not very good in the playoffs. He was not very good in the game against Minnesota. Atlanta. He was not very good in the game against Minnesota. Wentz was outstanding in 2017. But your point to the text message, how good is the O-line? That offensive line and this offensive line could be very similar. Remember, you had Lane Johnson on that offensive line. You had Brandon Brooks on that offensive line. You had Kelsey on that offensive line. I think you had, Wisniewski was the guard in the Super Bowl. And you had Big V, Vaitai. Mailata is better than Vaitai, and the rest of the line is very similar, if not the same, except Sayamala is in there for Wisniewski. The Eagles' offensive line holds the key to success this season. If they can stay healthy, this season will be fun. If they can't stay healthy, this season will be probably another roller coaster and not a good ride. More messages coming in. Croce says 9 to 10 wins. Anything more is catching lightning in a bottle, and everyone is buying into something special. I still don't think this group is terrible. By week 3-4, you will know if Sirianni and or Hurts is the answer moving forward, which in this group are the only 2 unknowns. Well, keep in mind, let's go back to Doug Peterson's first year with this team. They got off to a good start, and then they kind of fell apart in the middle of the year. We all thought Doug Peterson needed to go, some people. I mean, there were people that thought he was in over his head. Let's not judge Sirianni after 3-4 weeks like that message just indicated. 609-403-0973. Message us through the free mobile app. Pat in Woolwich Township. Did you see the Athletics poll of agents and how badly Howie got ripped? I did see that. I do have that on my list of things to talk about today. There is a couple of ways to kind of look at that, and I think it's very interesting. But yes, Pat, we will look at that list today because there's a couple of ways to kind of look at how that list is being portrayed and some of the things they said in there. But yes, there was an athletic poll that asked about Howie Roseman. Actually, didn't ask about Roseman. It asked about who are the best. I got to reread exactly. Let me bring it back up. I have it right here. Among GMs and front office leaders, whom do you trust the least? That's what it was. Who do you trust the least? I'll give you where Roseman was in on that list. Coming up, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Follow me at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Message me through the free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Hit me up on the text board, 609-403-0973. Watch the show live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We will get to all your reactions. I enjoy days like this where we can just have good two-way conversation. You guys can get involved in a variety of ways. Football is back this weekend. Jeff Nadeau, how to bet the games at 3 o'clock. Stick around. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. 226 Tuesday. Mike Gill with you at Mike Gill Show. Download the free mobile app. Messages through the app. It's an easy thing to do. Get the app at 973ESPN.com/app. The Apple Store, Google Play. Launch the app to listen to the show. You can hit the listen live button. You can hit the message us button. You can hit the call us button. It's easy to do. Touch of a button. Use your phone. Now, somebody had texted in about the athletics poll of agents. Among GMs or front office leaders, whom do you trust the least? This is from The Athletic. And Howie Roseman got 7 votes. I don't know where that put him on the list. I'll have to check that out. I think it was number 1, actually. I think he was ranked as the least trusted guy or agent or GM, I should say, by the agents. I guess the question you would ask is, do I want my GM to be giving good, solid information out there, or do I want him to be kind of on the shady side? Now, some of the answers in the poll, right? One said he's always playing both sides at all times. He's not dishonest. He's a hedger. Always make sure he has a side deal. Like, it sounds like, hey, this guy's doing his due diligence, and I just don't like it. Right? He does his due diligence, and I don't like that. Is that a bad thing? I feel like because he's being portrayed as dishonest, right? I think it's because he's being portrayed as this dishonest guy. That's a reason to say, see, he's dishonest. But keep in mind, the guy who won that poll last year, as the most dishonest was Bill Belichick. Don't you want your guy to be on that level? Don't you want your guy to be the guy that everybody says, man, he's always getting one over on me. I don't want to deal with him. He's always beating me. The question was, among GMs or front office leaders, whom do you trust the least? Eagles GM Howie Roseman got 7 votes. Next was Bill Belichick with 6 votes. And the following guy was Joe Douglas of the Jets with 3 votes. The interesting quote on Joe Douglas was, the organization is so bad, it's hard to trust anything that comes out of there. The next one was, and this is interesting, this was on Joe Douglas, who got 3 votes as the most untrustworthy GM in the league. It said part of that is just his circumstances with ownership, but they've told me multiple players things in the last couple of years that just haven't been true. Remember, many of the people here really liked Joe Douglas and thought that he was a guy that, did a good job. And here's the same poll saying that Joe Douglas is one of the most untrustworthy guys. Now, when it comes to Howie Roseman, these are from 33 agents. And one said, Howie will do what Howie needs to do. I will say that with tremendous reverence, but I don't trust him. But isn't that a good quality to have in that job? It almost makes me feel better reading these things, that these agents don't like Roseman because the agents feel that Roseman's getting one over on them. Another agent said, this is easy. He tells you one thing and does the opposite. You can tell him something and say it, stays with us, and then 3 or 4 people are hitting me up about what we discuss. It doesn't make him a bad guy, but there's no transparency. Now, Bill Belichick got 6 votes. The agent said he's not deceitful. We just haven't had a good relationship. He fights hard for what he wants, and I do the same in the opposite direction. So that comment right there tells you they're voting for Belichick because they don't like dealing with him, because they know they're in for a bare-knuckle fight with Belichick. Another agent said they always have a plan in place and they know how they plan to use it. From a communication standpoint, they're not an organization where you can have a conversation about what's happening with your clients. See, the agents want transparency. They want you to come out and tell you exactly what is going to happen. And they're in the business of playing close to the vest. Another agent says it's not that he's done anything wrong, but he's team first always. So everything is slanted their way all the time. Like he shops for dudes who take that approach. He always had the franchise quarterback to get away with that. That's an interesting point because we would always say, look, these Patriots team, they're not like these great rosters. They got Brady. They always went out and got these guys, and you're like, how the heck are they winning with these guys? Because Belichick went and got these guys who were college captains and guys who tried really hard, that kind of stuff. I thought this agent thing was very interesting, though, because the fact that who do you trust the least and Howie Roseman's at the top, I almost wonder, isn't that a good thing? Like, seriously, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that something that you want, that your GM isn't transparent to the media and to the agents, that they keep it close to the vest? I don't know. It's however you read that. But thank you for sending that in, Pat in Woolwich Township. I did see that. And there were some other things in that agent poll that really stood out. One which was, let's see, what was the one that had to do with Carson Wentz here? I think it had to do the most, let's see. Okay, here it is. It was, what was the most interesting or surprising decision of the offseason? And obviously, Carson Wentz being traded made that list, to which they said the Eagles trade of Carson Wentz. I thought once the Eagles changed coaches, that would be enough to keep Wentz. So that was one there that made the list. Which team had the best offseason? Washington did jump on that list with 2 votes. Which team had the most disappointing offseason? Philadelphia made that with just 2 votes. It said, who could have thought after winning the Super Bowl they would move on from Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz and have one of the worst rosters in football? The other one, agent said, I would be suspicious of the Nick Sirianni coaching hire if a press conference determines his fate. In that market, he is going to be Gase. Gase is a head coach who was chewed up and spit out by the local media and rabid fan base that desperately demands winning, even though here they just won a Super Bowl 3-4 years ago. So, interesting take there by the agent. Couple other of notes here. Should quarterbacks have say in organizational decisions? Yes, got 6 votes. It depends, got 19 votes. And no, got 6 votes. I would say it depends. I think that's, look, not every football player understands football. You know, everybody says, oh, he didn't play the game. I don't care if you played the game or not. You either know the game or you don't know the game. You ever talk to some guys who actually played the game and you're like, how the heck did you get this far? You don't have to play the game to know the game. And some people who play the game don't have a clue about the game. They just happen to have an innate or unbelievable athletic ability that gets them to that level. It doesn't mean they understand the game that they're playing. So that doesn't mean the quarterback can come in there and dictate everything. You have to know, how is his mind in the right place? Is he doing it because it's his friend? All that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot that kind of goes into that. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, we're going to get back into the football. There's so much football that we want to discuss on today's show. For whatever reason, I feel very footballish today. Like, I feel like football is there. I feel like football is like right in my grasp. I can kind of like feel it. I can smell it. It's right there. So we will get back into the football. But when we come back, it's an important game tonight for the Phillies. The Braves lost last night to the Yankees. The Phillies have the Rays tonight. We'll break it all down with Frank Close from 97.3ESPN.com. And he will give us this week's edition of the Phillies mailbag. See what you guys are asking Frank this week. He'll answer your questions on the other side. If you have a Phillies question that you want to try to sneak in for Frank, text it in now at 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973, or use the free mobile app and hit the Message Us button and get your Phillies questions in for this week's edition of the Phillies Mailbag. All right, Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan, now open, Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. It's next to Home Depot. online at mattblattnissan.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash with you till 6, and I got plenty more on the NFL later on. Football at 4. Today's Tuesday. Rob Monti's here. Rob Monti all season long, Tuesdays and Thursdays from the Associated Press. Covers the Eagles, covers the NFL. So we'll get a lot of perspective on both from him as well. That's all still to come today on the Sports Bash Live. Right now, joining us on a Tuesday with his mailbag questions. A lot of Phillies questions coming in. Yes, the Phillies, they are still in play, and they've got a big one starting tonight against the the Rays in Tampa. And Frank Close is back with his Phillies mailbag for another edition of Frank's Phillies mailbag. What's going on, Frank?
Not much, Mike. How are you?
All is well, man. It's good to be back. The Phillies, when I left, were in first place. When I returned, what happened?
So it's your fault, huh? No. I think the schedule did catch up to the Phillies a little bit.
Whoa. The schedule, they played the freaking Diamondbacks, who were 40 games under 500.
I agree with that. However, they never – I'll say they. It's very common that teams on their first couple days on the West Coast don't do so well as they reacclimate to their surroundings. They took 2 out of the 3 with the Padres, which is good. But certainly the Arizona series, you didn't want to lose all 3. I kind of saw them looking very groggy as they went out there. Usually that's kind of understandable. But I will say the other half of this, too, was that the Atlanta Braves got to face the Marlins 3 times, the Nationals 3 times, and the Orioles 3 times. And at least 6 of those games are gimmies. So yeah, the schedule. When I say the schedule kind of caught up with them, it was also about who Atlanta was playing during this stretch as well. Now the Phillies have to do better than what they did in Arizona. That's true. I would expect that they do better when Arizona is in town for 4. But yeah, definitely you need to take at least 1 game, if not 2, from those Diamondbacks. But the fact that they were able to do okay against the Padres, Atlanta, they're finally facing some tough teams. I think a lot of this will sort of balance out a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying to some extent there, but like you said, they're playing the Marlins and they're taking care of business. You're playing Arizona, not taking care of business. Those 2 games hurt. Now, the Phillies do have by far one of the easier schedules. I think, Frank, they only have series with teams with winning records 3 times the rest of the way. That includes the Braves tonight with the Rays. And I think there's 1 more in there against the team. Milwaukee. They play Milwaukee.
Brewers.
Right. They only play 3 series the rest of the season with teams with winning records. The Braves, they've got a lot of San Francisco, some Dodgers in there, I think, their next series. So do you anticipate seeing this thing getting close by the time these 2 teams meet September 28th, 29th, and 30th?
I absolutely do. And I think maybe right after you left, I was saying to Josh that, I kind of expected the Braves sort of to take a bit of a lead here. I didn't think it would be that deep because I didn't expect the Phillies to get swept by the Diamondbacks. But you know what? Good teams even, or as the Phillies are, maybe better than bad teams, do have bad stretches. I think it was important that they went to San Diego and took 2 out of 3. But I definitely think that they'll be in a better position down the rest of the stretch, and then by the time that the Phillies do face the Braves, that's the second to last series at the end of September. That's going to be a very key series for who wins this National League East.
Yep, sure will be. A lot of questions coming in for Frank's Phillies mailbag. So let's go over to 97.3ESPN.com and check them out. And Jason wants to know, Aaron Nola's had a rough season. Does his outing on Saturday night boost his confidence, or does he focus more on the bad pitch he threw and gave up that home run? Now, there's been a lot of questions about Nola in pennant races, right? I mean, I know Kevin Cooney has famously been on our show many times questioning him in these bigger moments. But what say you to Jason's question? Is Nola turning the corner, or should we expect still an up and down result the rest of the way?
Well, in terms of that outing, I don't see it rocking him either way. I mean, I think we've all seen his Yingling commercials where he's at the most boisterous, right? I feel like he's a pretty low-key guy, and I think he takes a lot of things in stride. So in terms of that outing, rocking him, I mean, you could nitpick. I mean, it was really good for most of it. You could always say that if it wasn't for that error by Brad Miller that took 1 out away, he could be, he wouldn't have faced that last hitter who hit the 2-run home run, Cronenworth. So, I just don't see Aaron Nola as the guy that really gets rattled. Now, to your point about what Kevin Cooney frequently says, and I pointed out too that he's often not stepped up on games that were must-win games. I feel like that has something to do with his demeanor. He's just a very laid-back guy. I don't think he's going to get rattled, and I do think though that there is something to be said for what he can do down the stretch, and he's got to maybe 6-7 more starts the rest of the way. He does very much need to step up. Overall, a game like San Diego, if you get that out of him every time, you'll be thrilled. You're going to win them more times than not. But I just don't see him as the kind of guy that really overthinks things or gets overly rattled.
We wondered the other day if the Phillies made the playoffs, would Wheeler get the ball in Game 1? And I think we all agree that he would. Correct?
Yeah, I don't see there being any other. Here's the only thing: if those guys are pitching at the end to try to get them into the playoffs, you might have to lay it out differently. But I think that would be the ideal situation. They have Wheeler starting first.
Now, we also kind of wondered, Nola has started opening day the last couple of years. I know this is looking kind of far ahead and not very important, but you think Wheeler would get the opening day call next year?
Well, I'll tell you this: he's certainly in consideration for the Cy Young. If he wins that Cy Young, I don't see how you can justify not starting him first. Or even if he comes in, he might be in the top 2. I mean, other than maybe Max Scherzer, who's kind of the sexy name that's been there, done that, and who's also having a very good season, he's going to get a lot of votes. And it might be really hard to justify not starting him opening day if he really does give them a solid run here for this Cy Young award.
All right, let's see what Phil wants to know. He's tweeting in and says, the majority of Phillies prospects have struggled with their development. Barber seems to be on the right track with the draft. Do you expect to see a much-needed change in Phillies player development, both personnel and in the plan moving forward? And Eric also kind of chimes in, wondering if there's a potential flaw in what the organization is teaching the young players. I guess this stems off Alec Boehm disappointingly getting demoted the other day.
Right. Now, a couple of things I want to point out first. Alec Boehm was never seen internally or externally as somebody that would provide stellar defense at third base. If you remember when he came up last year, I kind of said to you, they kind of hope that they can maybe get by with him at third base for a couple seasons. When Andrew McCutchen is a free agent next year, the left field could be an option for him. And you know what? Now there's some buzz about whether he might play left field down the line. In fact, Sam Fold, when asked about ability, he said, well, not in the immediate future. Well, then maybe that means they're actually thinking about it. So, I mean, a lot will depend on how the rest of the team sort of lays out over the course of the next off season. But the Boehm question is one that I don't think it's really fair per se to prompt this, because again, he was never seen as a defensive juggernaut, and as Yogi Berra famously said, 90% of the game is half mental, right? So it seems like he's somebody whose defense carried over to the plate at times. He was hitting just 070s, excuse me, 077 the last 7 days before he got demoted. So I think they're tied together. But here's the good news for fans that are worried about that. They're just into the tenure of Josh Bonifay as the director of player development, and as Brian Barber as the director of scouting and doing the draft. So if you're looking for change, well, you're already getting it. So the new crew is in there. They're the ones that drafted Mick Abel. They're the ones that just drafted Painter this year. So what they do with those players will kind of bring in the next guard. But I have one more thing to say about that too. You have to assume that these players are good enough. Routinely you draft a lot of players every year, and not everybody's going to make it. You're assuming that. Right. We can go down the list, right? Scott Kingery. We could talk about Spencer Howard. We could talk. I could go on all day. That the ones that didn't make it, right? But you're assuming that they could have made it, and maybe Moniak, Hastley. You're just kind of assuming that these players were good enough all along. And the reality is, most players you draft aren't going to be good enough, and it might not just be on them developing the players. It could be on the draft choices all along.
Let me ask you about Boehm going down, and what do you think they will and should do with him? Are they just going to put him back at third base? Do they attempt to try to change his position? What does the future look like for him?
Hey, like I said, roll the tape. When he got called up, I saw him as a left fielder eventually. I think that's something that could be in the
Well,
cards. I don't think he looked good at first either.
Do you start him at left field
But
now, or do you wait until the offseason and spring training?
that's an off-season question. I think what happens is, I think Dave Dombrowski really needs to reimagine what this roster in its entirety looks like. And there's a chance that he could get moved in a deal, I suppose, or if they realize that he could be somebody that could give them value at another position like left field, part of the greater picture, then I think you do that in the off season. Right now, you don't do anything except set him down, try to take the pressure off, give him a lot of reps and at bats at third base, and then hopefully in a few weeks he can help their team down the stretch. But really, that type of move is so big a move that it is an off-season type move.
All right, last question in the mailbag this week. It's from Rich, and he wants to know who's more important to this team's success, Rhys Hoskins or Aaron Nola?
Well, since we have a few minutes left and we got to talk about Nola a little bit, I'll focus on Hoskins. But, there was a clear difference Sunday, when Rhys Hoskins re-entered the lineup. And it wasn't just him hitting 2 home runs. It was the rest of the lineup seemed to function better around him. Now, the Phillies have essentially been without 3 right-handed hitters that they are counting on. Alec Boehm, Andrew McCutchen, who since he got back from his injury, he didn't take a rehab assignment. He just came right back at it. He has not looked the same. And so having Hoskins there, especially in the absence of the other 2 making an impact, really did change the way the entire lineup looked. And so I think in terms of the Phillies offense, having him there makes a huge difference. Now, I do want to caution fans. It still sounds like he's still a little sore with that groin, and it sounds like they might pick his spots in the next week or so as he sort of gets reacclimated to playing. You could see Brad Miller against some tough righties, but I think that bat is really key to this Phillies offense, and if the Phillies can't function as an offense, you saw what happened over that stretch without him, right? They were like 2-8 or something like that. So Phillies need Rhys Hoskins. They need him in that lineup, not just because he produces himself, but because everybody around him gets better. The lineup functions as it's supposed to. And so I think it's really, really key over these last 38 games that Hoskins is in there as much as possible to make that offense function the way that it was dreamed up when this team was put together last offseason.
This is Frank Close's Phillies mailbag. Of course, you can go to 973ESPN.com to get more from the Phillies as they get ready for the Rays tonight. 2 games set with the Rays and a very interesting schedule the rest of the way. The Phillies team's .460 win percentage. It's by far the worst in baseball. So the Phillies, if they can't capitalize on this, it should be a very interesting offseason ahead. We're not looking at the offseason yet. We're looking at this season in a pennant race, and Frank's with us along the way. And you can follow him on Twitter at Frank Close with a K. That's Klose. All right, Frank, we will be watching tonight and, of course, checking in.
Yeah, welcome back, Mike.
Thank you, brother. All right, Frank Close, of course, 97.3 ESPN.com. Sports Bash brought to you by the New Jersey Board of Elections. New Jersey voters, you can trust you can cast your ballot early in person before this fall's general election day. Learn more about your voting options at vote.nj.gov. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app, which you can download on your phone. It's easy to do. Get the free mobile app through the Apple Store or Google Play, and you can message us right through your phone. Hit the message us function. You can also watch the show live on our YouTube channel. And if you follow us on Twitter at 973ESPN and message us through those avenues as well as the text board at 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Coming up, college football is back, and we want to make you some money. That's why Jeff Nadeau is here. He's one of the best when it comes to giving out college football betting advice. And he will have that for you coming up next as we have a couple of college football games on the docket this weekend. All right, Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. What's happening, everybody? I'm Mike Gill, back with you after a brief, I don't know where I was. I've lost track of days, times, and everything. But everything's back to normal now, including this man right here, Jeff Nadeau. He is back with us. And guess what? The college football season is back. There's a slate of games on Saturday that I am sure Jeff is more than happy to discuss as we got some football back, my man. What's going on?
How are you, Mike? Nice to see you as always. How's everything with you?
Everything's good, man. I'm enjoying being back. I had a nice little trip to Jamestown, New York, won the World Series, and here I am, back with you.
You're like a high-level manager. You're like, Lou Piniella or somebody. I don't know. Good for you. Kind of look like Lou a little bit.
How about that? All right. Lou Piniella. I got that. All right.
You're kind of fat like him.
Look at you, man, taking the fat jokes now.
I'm kidding.
That's all right.
People still call me fat, though, so it's okay.
Yeah, me too. I don't mind it. I actually like it. People act like that's a bad thing. I said I actually worked hard to get to this point.
Well, listen, Mike, as you know, most women like a guy with a little meat on their bones, so it's okay. You know, you don't want to be super skinny. You like to eat. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Actually, well, all right. I like to drink maybe too much. No,
Yeah, well, that
I'm
might
just,
be out.
I'm just kidding. All right, man. College football's back. I know that you've got to be excited about it. I'm sure you've done plenty of research. And I'm liking this right off the bat here because you got Nebraska, Illinois Saturday, 1 o'clock. That kind of kicks off the whole season. And that thing already. So this is where, you come in with this kind of, you probably have done research on these two already. Opened at 9.5. It's already down to 6.5. FanDuel 7 at DraftKings.
Yeah, the number, look, if you like Illinois, the number's gone, man. I mean, a lot of people have come in and took the dog here. A lot of people have a feeling, Mike, that they don't want to lay 6.5, 7.5 with Nebraska. And that's fair. I mean, this is a team that has failed expectations recently. We know out in Nebraska, if you go out to Lincoln, football is everything. They're still in the Tom Osborne years out there. They still think this team is, really good. And I think they have the ability this year to really right some wrongs. They have a really good quarterback, but he's a quarterback that's been injury prone. Kind of reminds you a little bit of kind of the Carson Wentz situation. He's really talented, but he's injured a lot, and that's really the concern. I'll tell you this, Mike, I'm getting to the point where I want no part of Illinois here, and I'll tell you why. The whole world's in Illinois. I think everyone's just in the belief that Nebraska's not going to be good, but I'm one to believe this offense I think is actually pretty solid. I think they have some real talent on offense. They welcome back a fully healthy offensive line, and they have a quarterback that is healthy right now. He's not injured. So until he gets injured, I don't care what happens to him down the road. I just need him to play well in this game. At the end of the day, Illinois, new coach, Brett Bielema, a guy, as we know, likes to run the football. Both these teams, I think, want to establish the run. Scott Frost, the coach at Nebraska, has made that clear. But I look at Nebraska, and I just think they're so much better offensively than Illinois. I don't trust Brandon Peters, the quarterback at Illinois. I think defensively, these are kind of two teams that are just kind of decent. I'm actually, if this gets to 6.5 again, I will probably take Illinois. I'm waiting for the best price, but the whole world's on Illinois, and I don't want to be on that side. This kind of has the look to me of like 31-21, 31-17. I think Nebraska gets the better of them, and I think they go on the road and actually play pretty well.
All right, so that opened at 9.5. It's 6.5 FanDuel, 7 DraftKings, BetMGM, and all over the place. So you can maybe find it at 6.5 at some of these outlets.
Yeah, I'm actually just logging into FanDuel, and I got 6.5, and I'm going to replay it right now. So you're getting me to bet this, Mike, right at this time. Listen, this is all about numbers, folks. You cannot bet bad numbers. You will lose long term. Okay, it's very simple. Best number, 6.5. I'm in.
Okay, all right. I like that. If you're a FanDuel, 6.5. Play Sugar House, 6.5. Unibet, 6.5. 7 everywhere else. That's what I see live right now. All right, Jeff Nadeau, UConn Fresno. That one's a big number, right? 27.5 it's up to. It started at 25.5. It keeps going up here. So give me a read on that.
Yeah, I mean, this number, if you like Fresno, it's still beneficial, whether it's at 25 or 27. You don't want to see it creep up above 4 touchdowns. But look, I'm not going to try to sell you on Connecticut. I mean, this is one of the worst teams in the country.
They're horrible.
Might not win a game this year. That's where they are. They didn't play last year. They opted out of the season, which was probably a better idea. It's a waste of money for them to have a football team at this point. Fresno is actually going to be really good. Jake Haener is a really good quarterback. I would have no interest in playing UConn. But I'll say this, Mike. When I look at the Mountain West, I'm never running to bet a 4-touchdown favorite because I don't know if they necessarily have an offense that's going to put up 50 or 60. I don't know if they have the capability of doing that. I think in this case, though, this kind of screams 38-3 to me. So I would lean on Fresno. I'm not going to make a case for UConn at all.
Yeah, it's funny because there was a time where people felt UConn was going to be, because of the basketball program, that they would have been able to get these, good, solid, tough athletes to go there and play football. Like 10, 15 years ago, when what was it? Etzel was there.
Yeah.
You thought they were going to be a team that could have been, and they were solid when they went from 1AA to the Big East.
Well, they're a lot like Kansas. They're a basketball program. It's just that simple. They just haven't really struck gold, at least for much, with the football program. And like I said, at this point, you can make the case they are the worst team in the country.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch. I would have no interest in even if it got to like 30, I still wouldn't have much interest. I don't want to sit on the edge of my seat, and you're not going to win money betting on bad teams all the time.
All right. Now, I don't know. I haven't kept up on this, but there must have been an injury or something that maybe you know about why UCLA Hawaii went from 9.5 to 18.
Yeah, this is a big one. I think really, Mike, the whole thing here is, and I've been back and forth on this game because I like both programs. But I'll say this. These are not the Hawaii teams of Norm Chow and Colt Brennan and Timmy Chang. They're good. They're not run and shoot anymore. They have a new coach, Todd Graham. It's more of a run game. They want to establish the run.
The guy from Pitt?
Yes. They want to do that. That's the goal on the Big Island now. They do have a good quarterback, though, and I expect them to use him. The problem this group had last year is their quarterback did everything. He was their leading rusher. He was a guy that was really important to them moving the football. And when you jump up and you play a team to the caliber that I think UCLA is going to be, there is really a point of no return for Chip Kelly. He must succeed with this team this year. He must. They have the talent. They have everyone back. I think they have 20 starters back from last year's team. They have a good quarterback. They have good skill position players. They have a new running back that was at Michigan that's now at UCLA. There's no excuse for Chipper, okay? They've got to get back to the years when he was at Oregon, and I think they have the ability. This line tells you, though, that UCLA is likely to play, but I just think Hawaii is better than being 17, 18 points worse. I'm really kind of all over the place with this one.
Why the jump, though? What happened?
Well, you'll see
9
that.
points.
Yeah, you'll see that in week one. It was probably just a bad number they put out. Just being honest, there's no major injuries as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Hawaii, the big problem like Hawaii has since 2015, there have not been many worse teams on the road than Hawaii. Hawaii over the last 32 road games is 12-20 on the road against the spread. They're just not very good. They struggle away from the Big Island. Now, luckily, they got a couple of days to prepare, this being the first game, and generally you'll get a good effort. If I had to play this, Mike, which I haven't played it, if I had to play it, I would probably lay the points here. But I think it's right around the number the entire game.
Follow Jeff on Twitter, @JeffNadu. He has a video out of the week 0 betting breakdown.
I didn't get to all of them yet. That was the first one I put out.
Okay. So, no, I'm saying follow him. He's going to be doing breakdowns of these games if you want to get a little bit more in depth on them. We're kind of bouncing, taking a look at the initial schedule. Now, and by the way, nobody else out there would be able to speak on these games off the top of their head like Jeff can right now. Now, UTEP play in New Mexico State. That opened at 9. It's 10, and that's a little late night for you there. So you got all these other ones, and then you can say, bang, you got that one into the mix.
Yeah, well, look, Mike, obviously football's back, and people are excited. I think we just really are happy that it's not preseason or Arena League or some goofy NFL side thing or something. This is not a high-level matchup, though. Keep in mind, Dana DeMello is the coach at UTEP. In 4 years as a coach, he has 5 wins in 32 games. So this is not a good football team. I think if you're betting on this game, I think you really are grasping for straws. New Mexico State's really bad as well. This won't be on my card. I won't have any interest in it. I'm not going to lay – would you have the line at? You have 10, I think?
10.
That's ridiculous. Okay,
you got 10.5. You got 10.5 at Sugar House.
Look, New Mexico State's not good, but I mean UTEP is not double digits better than really anyone, especially an FBS opponent. So, I have no interest in betting on UTEP, New Mexico State, but if I had to, I would take the points in Prez, they say. But again, in college sports, if you bet on bad teams, you will lose. This is one of those games, Mike. Books love them because the whole world will bet on this like they know what they're doing, and it's a late night game. They just bet itself, right? It's on TV, even though they're at the bar. They just want to know they have a game.
Yep, it's a standalone game by itself at night. Now there is a 10:00 game, which what's that one is? Southern Utah, San Jose State. Now that one is opened at 27. If you can find it, Sugar House has it. Unibet has it at 22. No one else has this on the board right now.
Yeah, Mike, I think that could be a misprint. This opened 20.5. It came out last night at FanDuel, 20.5. It quickly bet up to 21.5. At some points, it's at 22. I actually know a lot about Southern Utah. I guess that's just the weird brain in me. Southern Utah was 1-5 last year. Now, Mike, I will ask you, is 1-5 a good record?
Obviously not.
No. 4 of those games, though, they lost by 3 or less points. So they're a team that's right there. This is a big step up in competition, though. This is not even a good team in Big Sky competition in the FCS. This is a major step up. It wouldn't surprise me if they get shut out. San Jose State is a top 25 defense. It's that simple. They were, I think, 20th last year in points per game allowed. They have a really good quarterback in Nick Starkel. I think they probably win this one like 41-13, 41-10, something like that. I think the under's interesting, Mike, at 56.5. I think if it goes a bit higher, I might get involved. I just feel like San Jose State's a good offense, but I don't know if they're going to put up 50 or 60. That's just not the capabilities of this offense. I think the goal is to focus on USC in week 2. I would lean with San Jose, but I'd also lean under. 38-13 sounds about right.
Now, I know this is the first weekend. Have you started to dabble in any of the Thursday night action? Temple, Rutgers, Boise, UCF, anything that far down the road, or are you just totally focused on Saturday?
Well, Mike,
Ohio State, Minnesota, too.
Yeah, one of the things that I will say, and I've got to get better at this, I am not one of these time people. I don't know. I have no idea when these games are. As far as week 1 matchups, I have bet a few. As far as the ones on Thursday night, I have not gotten involved. I think I'll say this right out of the gate. Temple is bad. And I know locally that's not – I like Temple. I love their basketball program. But this is a bad football team. Their quarterback play is dreadful. They've got a lot of kids that left this program last year defensively. And Rutgers is a team that I'm looking to bet on. It's not a real good feeling betting on Rutgers as 2 touchdown favorites, but Temple is bad. It's just that simple.
Yeah, Rutgers is give them credit. I've been very harsh on them, but Shiano has gotten some talent in there, and they were much more competitive last year. I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah, a couple week 1s, though, I bet. I took Kansas State against Stanford. I took Ole Miss. I got a good number on that. And I also took Georgia Tech against Northern Illinois. But I'll have some preview videos out for them here pretty soon. It's just glorious, Mike, to see those.
It is, man. So there's your college football slate for Saturday. It all starts, and we just gave you some nuggets there. I got the NBA win totals. I just wanted to throw Philly 51.5. That's a tough one because that's a pretty high number. They have the 4th best win total of everybody according to Vegas. They're hard though to handicap because you don't know what's going to happen with your boy Simmons.
I will say this till the cows come home, Mike. Unless you have millions of dollars as a bankroll, I will never understand why people bet win totals. I will never get it. I will never understand it. It is one of the dumbest bets you can make, and I mean that. At least if you're going to bet a win total, and Mike, we've talked about this. Why not just say if you like the Sixers, bet them to win something where you're getting plus money? Why are you going to sit there for like a year and have your money tied up? Keep in mind, we as gamblers only have a certain amount of money. We don't have endless amounts of money that we could just throw thousands of dollars on win totals to make it interesting. Do I bet a win total here and there? Yeah. But I think if they're a large part of the way you bet on a coin flip, a lot of the time you're laying a price. It's just a weird bet. I'll never understand it.
Yeah, so when I tell you, though, that they have the 4th highest win total, it's Brooklyn 55.5, Milwaukee 54.5, LA 52.5, Philadelphia 51.5.
Seems a little low to me. I would probably put them a little bit higher than they're basically telling you that the Sixers are the 3rd best team. Now, again, you made that very eloquently clear. If you believe Ben Simmons is gone and they're going to get someone else, then that could be too low. But if Ben Simmons is back, this team is what they are. It's just that simple. And history would lend us to believe that they're going to find a way. Because the people that are putting these videos out of Ben Simmons shooting, you don't think the Sixers are behind that?
What? I was saying, who gives him the green light to do that? Does he say, hey, videotape me and put these out? He can't be that dumb, can he?
Yeah, listen, I've told you before, and I'll say this again. Do I want someone here like that lives up in Portland? Yeah. Do I think it will happen? No, because they never do things like that. They never bring in guys and keep them and give – like in your lifetime, Mike, outside of Allen Iverson, have they ever brought in a free agent that you were like, oh, my God, I am so excited. That's a generational type player.
Well, I mean, Iverson, they drafted. He wasn't even a free agent.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess when I say a talent, let's just say even. No. Besides him and Embiid, no. No one's ever been here like that.
Well, and I've had this discussion, but Philadelphia is just not a free agent destination. So you're not going to sign. You have to draft this guy. Hence, they had to lose on purpose to get a player because you can't just sign a superstar and say, hey, you want to come play in Philadelphia? They're going to be like, get out of here.
Well, now you could say, though, it is because people want to play with Joel. They want to be in a system that competes. But, Mike, you always seem to find a way to piss me off with this team. I want to talk about this team right here.
I was going to get to that. I like that. Well, I said, earlier in the show that I feel the ceiling would be a 10-win team. And this is what, if the offensive – I like that reaction. If the offensive line can stay intact for a majority of the games, my ceiling, I'm not predicting, my ceiling is a 10-7 team.
Yeah, and listen, the schedule's not good. I mean, as far as the teams they're playing, they have a good schedule. It's one of the easiest in the league. I think it might be the easiest in the league.
Yeah, it depends on – I've had people like – some people have it the easiest, the 6th, the 8th. I don't know. I mean, it depended on when you evaluated it based on free agency, draft, stuff like that. But yes, it's not daunting.
I think they need to win 10 games. They need to go 4-2 at least in the division. And I think they could sweep the Giants. I think they always play well against them. I think they should flip against the Cowboys and Redskins. I think there are a lot of other winnable games. I agree with you, though. It's all about the offensive line. Okay, fully healthy, they're one of the strongest groups in the NFL at this point. Quarterback, it's all about him at the end of the day. And reason to believe that he's going to look really good. They're going to need to keep Zach Ertz. That's just becoming more and more conceivable to me. I would like to see them go out and get one more receiver, Mike. I mentioned Keenan Cole. I think he's a guy that could be had. Get rid of Dillard. Dillard stinks. Get him out of here. That was a bad pick. They shouldn't have made it. Get him out. We don't need him at this point. Go out and get another receiver. Because, Mike, they don't have any veteran receivers on this team.
Yeah, I agree.
I like Smith, Rieger. I like this kid, Quez Watkins. I like some like Fulgham. They're kind of like Avant type of players, Fulgham and Greg Ward. But I need another. They went out and got the kid Goodwin last year. Didn't play because he opted out and never ended up playing a snap for this team. I would really feel good about this offense if they went out and got Keenan Cole. He's a guy that I think can catch a good amount of passes for them. I like their running game. Defensively, I think they're better than people give them credit for. I'm excited. I don't know about 10 wins, but I think they're going to be.
I said that's the ceiling. Don't quote me that they're going to win 10. I said that's the high watermark. If everything goes right, the health is there. They were 3-6-1 in one-score games last year. That's with your quarterback being abysmal.
Yeah, listen, Mike, I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. Okay, I'm happy for the kid. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good leader. I'm excited about the prospect of this. There's a new coaching staff as well. But again, he hasn't played much in the preseason. Is he going to play against the Jets? I'd hope. I mean, what the hell's going on here?
I doubt it because they value these joint practices more than the games because they can say, hey, we want to do 3rd and 4. We don't know if we're ever going to get a 3rd and 4 in the one series that you get in a game, so we'd rather just play you here and then take our chances.
I think, Mike, and I'm going to say this, I think they go into that Week 4 game undefeated against the Chiefs.
Week 4 against the Chiefs. Let me bring up my handy schedule here. You've got Falcons, Niners, Cowboys.
I'm not big on the Niners personally. I know a lot of people are. I'm not. I think
2 road games too, by the way, there, Jeff.
Yeah, but again, going into the Chiefs, they're going to be. I think they need to be at least 2-1. Go into that one. Who knows what happened? They'll probably lose. But then they come back. They get Carolina. That's really winnable. Bucks at home. They get the Raiders, the Lions. They're going to be. I'll say 9. I'll say 9-8.
What your high water mark is what? Best case scenario. Everything goes right. Best case scenario is
11-6.
All right, so you're higher than me. I got 10-7.
And I'm not if you know me, I am very negative about this team. Very negative. But I want Keenan Cole. I think you should make that happen. I think it's gettable. And they need another veteran here. And they've done that in the past, the trade thing.
Yeah, they got some options to trade, whether it be Ertz, although they've lost a couple tight ends, whether it be
No,
Dillard,
I
whether
can't
it be
see Ertz.
Pryor.
You can't leave Ertz. Pryor, see ya. He sucks. Get him out of here.
We agree with that.
Yeah,
But
Pryor and
offensive line
Dillard.
play in this league is so bad that someone will take them.
Exactly. And if you need someone, you can always go get them. But yeah, listen, I want a veteran receiver. They need one.
Jeff Nadeau at Jeff Nadeau. College football's back. If you want more from him on the college football, follow him at Jeff Nadeau for all the games this weekend. He's got videos he's posting over at Jeff Nadeau on Twitter. And you were a hot topic. Everybody keeps asking me, what are you doing? I don't know. I'll let the guy do what he's doing. I'm not bugging him.
Well, I'm not doing anything right now. Unfortunately, Mike, I'm free agent. I have no job right now. I'm doing my own things. So
there was a guy I coached against in the World Series who was an intern at your former employer.
Oh yeah, who's that?
Yeah. His name was Matt. Maybe I'll have to look it up.
Gambling guy.
Young guy.
Gambling?
Young guy from Connecticut.
I think I know who you're talking about. He was a gambling guy. I heard about him.
I guess so. Young guy from Connecticut area.
Matt Ola, I believe. Yeah, I know him.
I don't remember. No, his last name was something different. I'll remember it, though. I'll look at my roster sheet, and I'll send it to you. Okay. But, all right, Jeff. We'll talk to you. I actually am off next week. So.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you whenever, I guess.
Have a nice life if I don't see you.
All right.
Take care, man. Jeff Nadeau right there giving you all the betting information formerly of Barstool Sports, of course. And as he said, he's kind of a free agent right now. Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN. It's brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. Jeff Nadeau's appearance on the Sports Bash is brought to you by PropSwap. All right, I am Mike Hill. This is the Sports Bash. Download the free mobile app. Do that for me now. Get that in the Apple Store or Google Play. And you can message us through the free mobile app. It's easy to do. Also, coming up, Andrew DeCecco's got football at 4. We'll see what he's focusing on for the Eagles and Jets and the joint practices this week. I got more on that coming up. 329 Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Blackhorse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Hopefully you're enjoying your Tuesday. It's a hot one out there. I think that many people realize that football is here, and we are getting ultra excited. Got a lot of people texting in about the college games this weekend, 609-403-0973. Yes, I'm excited too. College football is back. It's not a great slate of games. There is some college football big news out there for those of you who are big college football fans. The ACC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12 have announced a historic alliance. I don't know what that essentially means, but there will basically be a collaborative approach surrounding the future of college athletics and scheduling, where those three conferences essentially are going to be, as they call it, an alliance. The Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big Ten believe that collaborating together, that they can be stronger as a three-conference collaboration than being off on their own. After two teams left the Big 12 to go to the SEC, the Big 12 was kind of left holding the bag empty in their hand. So these other conferences decided, we're not going to allow this to happen to us, so we'll go form this alliance. So what does that mean for college football moving forward? It's going to be interesting. You figure, what happens to the remaining Big 12 teams, the 10 teams that are kind of left over in that conference that lost Oklahoma and Texas? What happens to those teams now that these other three conferences have kind of formed their own alliance? The future of college football is getting very dicey. It could be a good thing, but it could blow up in their face. We shall see. I look at it in this I look at it from this perspective that, what made college football great is that you had these traditional rivalries. That is what still drives college football, in my mind anyway. The fact of the matter is that you have these rivalries that you look forward to every year. And without those, or those becoming, minimized to some extent, what happens to college football? What happens to your, Ohio State Michigans, your USC UCLAs, your Army Navies? No, they might not go away, but are they as anticipated when you have other, high-level matchups that don't have as much meaning, I guess, would be the question. I'm kind of intrigued by what happens next and how this thing kind of all plays out, because it's sad to see all these things kind of break off and break up. And as Jeff kind of mentioned, you got a place like Nebraska, who's now in the Big Ten. That's a traditional football school that just loves their football out there. Now, they formally announced this alliance, so I don't know when it's going to start. The scheduling, they're talking about playing scheduled non-conference games against one another. So essentially, if you're a Big Ten scheme, you might play your Big Ten schedule, and then your crossover games will no longer be these, out-of-conference MAC schools or WAC schools or Mountain West schools. I guess the WAC's no longer around. But instead, those crossover non-conference games will be, you would see Penn State USC or Penn State Clemson or Ohio State Washington, stuff like that. Now, the scheduling part of the alignment is not set to happen immediately. So I'm not sure when this is all going to kind of take place. But when you ask the question, well, why did they need to do this? It's essentially because Texas and Oklahoma moved for the SEC, and then talks between the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12 were kind of like, hey, what should we do? All right, let's put ourselves together. So now you have three conferences coming together, and I don't know if they're going to call themselves the Alliance or they're going to stay in the fashion that they are. There's a lot of questions that still need to be answered here. However, the Big Ten both admitted that the SEC acquiring Texas and Oklahoma created this necessity. Now, when you look at playoff expansion, that's another thing that comes into play here. There's been a 12-team model proposed. There's been some pushback about the timeline on that. Well, will this add to because before you had these 5 power conferences that were eligible for playoffs. Well, if you make this a SEC alliance, and I don't know what happens to the Big 12 at this point. And keep in mind, I talk about what makes college football great. Big 10, Pac-12. Well, they want to keep pushing to be playing in the Rose Bowl together. They want to keep that tradition going. They want to play Big 10, Pac-12 at the traditional date and time of January 1st at 5 o'clock at Pasadena, California. So this is a pretty interesting shift, if you will. The earlier summer name, image, and likeness rights, that has changed college football. I don't think it's going to change the game that you see on Saturday. But this new alliance, the SEC expansion, if you put those 3 together, what's that? Like 60% of the Power 5 conferences are all now in this alliance. It will be interesting to see where this shift takes the college football landscape. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Hopefully you're enjoying the day. Hopefully you're staying cool. It was a hot one out there. I know this is that time of the year where we're getting towards the end. We're getting to football. We thought some things start to cool down, but it appears that we've got one last kind of, week of some heat here. But football will be here on Saturday with college football, and we look forward to having all the college football this year and the NFL. We're your home for the NFL, 97.3 ESPN, and, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash, and coming up at 4 o'clock today, the latest on the Eagles as they have their joint practice today with the New York Football Jets, and I got some details on that joint practice that you're going to want to hear coming up here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget the free mobile app. Download the free mobile app thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City, wherever you get your apps in the Apple Store or Google Play. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle. All you need to do is download the app, and you can message the app from your phone. Message the studio, I should say, from your phone. All right, when we come back, Eagles joint practice with the Jets today. Who stood out? What happened? I got the latest. It's all here coming up on the Sports Bash. All right, 342. I got the Phillies lineup against the Rays tonight. Eagles stuff as well. I'm Mike Hill, Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. At Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Download the free mobile app in the Apple Store, Google Play. Messages through your phone. I have the Phillies lineup right here. Thanks to Frank Close, who tweeted this out just a moment ago. The lineup looks like this. Here we go. Leading off playing left field, it's Odubel Herrera. Segura is at second, playing second base. Bryce Harper plays right field, bats third. JT Realmuto is the catcher. He hits fourth. Didi is at short, hitting fifth. Brad Miller's at first base. He hits sixth. Ronald Torreyes is at third. He hits seventh and batting eighth. And playing center field is Travis Jankowski. And hitting ninth is the pitcher tonight. That is Ranger Suarez. That is your starting nine for the Phillies tonight. So no Rhys Hoskins in the lineup tonight. And you might ask the question, why isn't Rhys Hoskins in the lineup tonight? And I would imagine, now if you heard what Frank said, he's still not 100% coming back from that. But you've got a right-handed pitcher tonight in Drew Rasmussen. So, and of course the Rays, you never know with their pitching whole situation. But the game is in Philadelphia, so there's no DH, which means the Rays are playing Nelson Cruz at first base for the first time as a major leaguer. Randy Arozarena is in right field. He leads off. Cruz hits second at first base. Franco is their shortstop. He hits third. Diaz is the third baseman. He hits fourth. Lau is the second baseman. He hits fifth. Margot is in center, hits sixth. Austin Meadows plays left field. He bats seventh. Mike Zunino is the catcher. He hits eighth. And Drew Rasmussen is the pitcher. He hits ninth. So Cruz at first base. So that will be interesting to see him play the field. Obviously, he's a DH primarily and was an outfielder before that. So the Phillies get a little bit of maybe a defensive liability, I guess you could say. But the Phillies line up tonight with Herrera, Segura, Harper, Realmuto, Gregorius. No Galvis in there. I thought maybe you might see Galvis. Now, Hoskins left Sunday's game early, but Girardi had said it was precautionary. But if you listened to Frank earlier, right? If you listened to Frank earlier, he suggested that he was not 100% when he came back. He was still a little tight, little sore. So hopefully not a setback, and just, hey, they have a righty going. Now, again, with the Rays, it's hard to just say they have a righty going. You know, when you look at Rasmussen, it's not like, you know, they got a Cy Young Award winner hitting the mound tonight with Rasmussen, but you never know how the Rays are going to play their hand with the pitching staff. Rasmussen is a guy who this season is basically pitched more out of the bullpen. I think he has only started like 4 or 5 games for them. Yeah, let's see. Yep, 4 games. Rasmussen has started 4 games for them. He has pitched in 14. So he is kind of like one of those, what are they, an opener for them. They don't pitch him a whole heck of a lot. So I don't think that would dictate too much the way they, set their lineup up, but I could be wrong. But there you go with that. All right, I want to jump back to the Eagles, who are in the joint practices with the Jets today. And by all accounts, from what I understand, the Eagles got the better of the Jets today. Now, if you go back to last week, the reports coming out of Philly when the Patriots were there was that the Eagles got the better of the the Patriots in the joint practices, right? They got the better of the Jets, the Patriots in the joint practices. Well, then, of course, they go out in the preseason game and they get beat 35-0. Well, the fans see that and they're going crazy. You lose 35-0. So today, based on what Nick Sirianni said the other day and what Miles Sanders said, I wrote an article for 97.3 ESPN.com that essentially said, look, the Eagles plan on following the same script, right? What does that mean? They will follow a similar script this week when they're getting ready for the Jets. They finished the preseason portion of their schedule on Friday night at MetLife Stadium in North Jersey, all right? So the Eagles today, now keep in mind, without many injuries to key players, that has been a big goal for them. That is seemingly a prime objective of Nick Sirianni. So the team will instead rely on joint practice sessions with the Jets this week to get a better look at their top talent, saving the preseason games tilts to watch the younger players who are battling for roster spots. The only really injuries this team is dealing with, they all happened either before the preseason games or in training camp or during practice to key players. Yeah, like Jason Kroom got hurt, but no starting player has gotten injured because they played in a preseason game. Now, last week, the team had joint practices with the New England Patriots, which by many accounts were dominated by the Eagles. However, once the two teams stepped on the playing surface at Lincoln Financial Field, the domination flipped over to the Patriots. They won the game 35-0. And as I mentioned, the fans see that 35-0, and they start to panic or they start to scream and yell and kick their feet. Well, the Eagles suggested, Miles Sanders being one of them, we're getting a ton of reps, the first teamers, in the joint practices. So the Eagles and Jets will now follow a similar schedule when they meet this week ahead of Friday night's preseason finale. Nick Sirianni said, I actually felt really good about the schedule and the organization of the joint practices. So much so that we're using a very similar format against the Jets this week. I really like what we got out of that work against the Patriots and looking to duplicate that this week. For those of you out there who worry that the starting level players aren't getting enough reps in the games, Eagles running back Miles Sanders explained that they're getting plenty of reps, just in a more controlled atmosphere. Quote, the starters, we are getting a lot of reps in these joint practices. I know you guys might not see all of us play in preseason games, but we're definitely getting a lot of work in the joint practices. End quote. That's Miles Sanders. Does that make you feel any better? You know, what if they're having a joint practice and the starting players are getting 80% of the reps? Now, I don't know what the percentage is. Does that change your opinion at all? Does that change your opinion if I said, look, they're playing controlled scrimmages, they're playing against another team, they're getting all the reps? Teams like the joint practices because they are a more controlled environment. They can control the down and distance. They can control where the ball is placed and what they want to work on. In a preseason game, you may never get to work on a goal line situation. Third and short, third and long, short yardage situations. In the controlled setting, the coaches can make sure they see the situations they want to see their players perform in. In a preseason game, that situation may never come up. Hence, they decide to go with these joint practice controlled situations. But hearing Miles Sanders say that, look, I don't care if the Eagles play in the preseason or not. I really don't. I've come to terms with the preseason is not a necessity any longer. Okay? Teams don't value it. Teams don't play. Teams don't care. They're not doing the things that they used to do in the preseason. It has essentially become, hey, 3 days or games to open up my building. It's one of those situations where, hey, we want to make some money. Let's make some money here. And hopefully, nobody gets hurt. Well, now no one has to get hurt because no one's playing. So they're getting playing time. Miles Sanders said it. We're getting reps in these practices. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. Now, from all accounts, the Eagles outplayed the Jets today. And from what I'm told, it was primarily one area that really stood out was the Eagles' defensive front up against the Jets' offensive line. That was a big difference in the two teams. Now, we all know one of the areas of the team that should have a high level of success, I should say, is the defensive front. The Eagles' defensive line should be pretty good. right? They should be very solid in that defensive line, and it shouldn't come to much of a surprise that the Eagles got the betterment of the Jets' offensive line, which by all accounts is not very good. So to hear that is not much of a surprise, but at the same time, it's positive. Hey, the Eagles dominated, defensive line dominated the Jets' offensive line at practice today. The focus of the defense here, right? You take a look at that Eagles defensive side of the ball. That is something that the Eagles are going to need. They need that defense to kind of, I don't want to say carry this team, but they've got to be very solid. They've got to be very steady. They've got to be a good defense. They're not going to be great. We know that. They've got to be a good defense, though. Last year, just an average defense coupled with a bad offense, and you had a bad team. Can't have it. Not if they want to be a successful team, which both you and I would all like to see, right? We'd all like to see this Eagles team give us a successful year. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. It's the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. We got a busy hour for you coming up. In the next hour, we've got Andrew DeCecco football at 4, his impressions of this Eagles team at practice this week. You know, what stands out about this team as they get ready for the Jets? What battles are still there? What roster spots are still up for grabs? We'll get Andrew's take on that coming up on the other side. Plus, later on tonight, Rob Motti from the Associated Press, who will be making weekly appearances with us here on the Sports Bash. I'm so looking forward to that. He is a very well-connected, plugged-in guy when it comes to the Eagles and the NFL. He will be on with us every Tuesday and Thursday night at 5:25, and you can hear Rob every weekend here during Faith on the Field here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll give you more details on that when Rob joins us tonight. And one of the questions is, Rob Motti, can Jalen Hurts be the guy? Is that what this season is all about? We'll ask Rob tonight here on the Sports Bash. 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, and you can download the app in the App Store, Apple Store, Google Play. Simple to do, 973 ESPN/app. That's one way to do it. Or go to the Apple Store, Google Play, and just search for 973 ESPN. You can message us through your free mobile app. When we come back, it is football at 4. We'll talk with Andrew DeCecco from Inside the Birds, the Inside the Birds podcast, and InsideTheBirds.com right here on a Sports Bash Tuesday. This hour of the show is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show. I'm back on the other side.
It's time for Football at 4 with 97.3 ESPN.com's Andrew DeCecco.
My first allegiance is what will be best for the Philadelphia Eagles and our fans for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Go to PropSwap.com and download the PropSwap app today. Andrew DeCecco is here for the Eagles and the Jets. We'll get some thoughts on that, some battles that are still out there, some things he's still looking at, who has stood out in this training camp, and more right now as we go to Andrew DeCecco from the InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast as he joins us right now during today's edition of Football at 4. Andrew, it's good to talk to you, man. How you been?
Yeah, Mike, I'm doing well, man. How have you been? It's been a while. Congratulations on all your baseball success.
Yeah, man. It's I was away for a while. I almost forgot what day it is, but Tuesday is here. It's me and you, and we got Eagles, Jets on Friday. But obviously, there's so much more leading into this, and I want to kind of get your take on this seemingly new conversation between preseason games and joint practices and what these teams value more. It seems that the Eagles, Andrew, are valuing the joint practice more so than the preseason game.
Right, yeah, and the reason being is because they're able to give more exclusive looks. I mean, you don't really want to show much in the preseason. It's going to be mostly vanilla in the game situations because the tape's available to all 32 teams. But when you're in joint practices, that is exclusive to just those two teams. You're able to kind of practice things such as if the Eagles want to work on run defense, and they can work on that. They can work on certain areas of their game and run their system the way they anticipate doing so without it really leaking out there and teams having that footage available to them. So I do see the advantage of doing that, Mike, but I mean, it's hard to simulate those game reps, those snaps that are so vital when you're going against another team out there. And for so many of these young players, I mean, that's so important right now. I mean, to make the jump from joint practices to on September 12th in Mercedes-Benz Stadium playing the Atlanta Falcons, I mean, that's a big jump for a lot of these young guys.
Well, I would say this. Don't you think, though, that a lot of the younger guys are getting reps in the games? It seems that it's the starters who are the ones that are not getting the game reps. They're getting the joint practice reps, and they're saving those reps for the back-end players, I guess, to kind of battle it out in the preseason games.
Yeah, in some cases, but there are some young players who do have prominent roles on this team that aren't really getting that game experience because they're getting kind of pulled and preserved for the regular season. But and there's some of those players that really could use those reps. But I mean, yeah, by and large, you're seeing a lot of these depth players get these reps and everything like that. But I mean, like I said, it's so hard to simulate the game speed and the physicality and the different, having to think on your feet and be able to do all these different things in practice. Right. As beneficial as it may be, it's just very hard to sort of go through all that and get everybody prepared. And just, season's in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're right. There are some young players. One is Devonta Smith. The other one, Jalen Reagor. You got those two wideouts. Kind of give me your overview of after 2 games where this wide receiver room stands, because I'm not sure that we know what's going to happen with Travis Fulgham, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I guess Quez Watkins has opened eyes. Where's John Hightower? Give me your overview of what you've seen from the wideouts.
Well, it's really interesting because outside of the top 4 guys being Devontae Smith and Jalen Reagor and Greg Ward and Quez Watkins, there's a lot of question marks. Devontae Smith's going to be the top receiver on this team. Just a very nuanced route runner, savvy, very polished, detailed, good hands. He showed a little bit of rust last week, but that's to be expected. I mean, the guy missed most of August with dealing with that MCL injury, and he didn't believe that he was rusty. But I mean, I think that some of those balls that bounced off his hands, he comes down with. But I mean, he's going to be the top receiver. Jalen Reagor is going to be the speed guy, the elusive guy. They're going to move around, get him looks out of the backfield, get him the ball in space, and take advantage of his explosive traits. And then you have Greg Ward, who's your steady slot option. I think if the season were to start today, I think Greg Ward would be your number 3 option. not explosive by any means, but he's solid, steady, going to catch the football, move the chains. You know what you have there, which is why he only played 4 snaps last week. No need to really get him out there and get reps when you need to really see what you have in these other guys. And Quez Watkins, I think, is going to be a complementary piece, a rotational piece that's going to be – they're going to have certain plays for him to take advantage of his dynamic ability, and he's going to be another guy that can take the top off of a defense, and they need to find ways to get him the ball creatively in space and take advantage of his big play ability, which you started to see last season towards the end of the season, what he's able to do. So I think there's going to be a lot of packages for him as well. I think he's more of the wide receiver 4 right now. I think that role could certainly elevate as the season progresses. And then you have a lot of question marks there after that. Travis Fulgham has had a relatively quiet summer. He only played 14 snaps last week. He had 1 target. Really hasn't flashed or taken that next step that you want to see after that 4-week outburst of production last season. You really haven't seen much from him since then. Obviously, there's been a lot of variables that have played into that. And J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's there, of course, and John Hightower. Those guys are all sort of vying for that 5th spot, and it's really come down ultimately to their performance on Friday night.
So let me ask you, I know that you are big on the draft, so you know a lot of these younger guys, Andrew. Should we buy into what we're feeling and seeing from Quez Watkins? Can he have an impact in the offense?
He absolutely can. And the reason why I say that is he's vastly improved as a route runner. And the route running department, there's few corners that can really keep up with his quickness. He has very little wasted movement in and out of his breaks, good hands. And I think he just looks like a more refined player. When he came out of Southern Mississippi last season, I saw him as a raw prospect that had a lot of intriguing intangibles, but really needed time to let that sort of marinate, get him with an NFL coaching staff, have him work on some of the finer nuances of the position. But he really looks like he attacked the offseason with a purpose, and you're starting to see that pay off. It paid dividends throughout the summer in practice and in the game situation. So he's the real deal. And I think moving forward, he's going to carve out a role. Like I said, I don't know if he's going to be a volume player. I think if the season started today, like I said, Greg Ward would probably be the 3rd option. But I think Quez Watkins is going to really turn some heads this season.
Yeah, that's an added bonus if you can get something from a guy that maybe you didn't have a lot of expectations coming into for. And let's kind of go to the running back room and kind of hammer that out and see how you're seeing that entering this Jets game here, because I think it's still a little murky behind what's going on with Miles Sanders. I say murky is we just don't know what the roles of those guys might be. So what have you seen through 2 preseason games from some of these guys?
Yeah, so basically Miles Sanders is going to be your 3-down runner. I don't know if they're going to throw a lot at him this year and try to wear him down. I think he's best when he's fresh, and hopefully they utilize him a lot more than the previous regime, because I think he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. You saw his ability to hit the crease and really take it the distance. He has that explosive big play ability. And then you have Jordan Howard, who I think can lessen some of the load from Miles Sanders and grind out those tough yards. Not going to catch the ball, obviously, but he's going to be a short yardage guy, probably steal some goal line carries. And then if the Eagles have a lead, I think he's going to be someone that could really bleed the clock out. And then you have Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell, who I think are tremendous change-up running backs that can catch the football. They're elusive in the open field, present a lot of matchup issues. And then possibly you have a guy like Jason Huntley, who could sort of prompt the Eagles to keep 5 running backs, because he is a good returner. He can contribute on special teams, and he's another guy that can be one of those change-up guys. I don't know if you can get him through waivers, because he was a 5th-round pick, and he has shown a little bit of ability this summer to have that that burst and springiness to him. Looks like he shot out of a cannon at times. I like what I've seen from him. So, and I think there's a great deal of teams that would vying for his services as a depth player should he get cut. So there's possibly that they can keep 5 guys, but I think that they're likely to keep 4, but I certainly think that you can make a case for keeping 5.
Andrew DeCecco, football at 4, Eagles and Jets Friday night, both in a joint practice today, where the observations from many was that the defensive line kind of dominated the day, which should be expected. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, obviously Derek Barnett, what you got up front, Javon Hargrave, that's going to be you need that offensive defensive line. But have you learned anything about Jonathan Gannon and his defense with how he's going to use the other guys, the Kerrigans, the Averys? I don't know that that's become clear yet, but have you got a little bit of a read on how Jonathan Gannon's defense might work?
Well, he showed a little bit more than he did the first game. He was very vanilla in the debut and the preseason opener, but against the Patriots, you saw sort of how he could use that Sam linebacker position. I thought that he moved Jannard Avery right up in the line of scrimmage and have him shooting the gaps. But like I said, the Sam linebacker spot, I've said this before, they're going to be the way that he envisions it seems like, is to have that change up fastball coming off the edge, like a Jannard Avery, like a Patrick Johnson, the rookie linebacker from Tulane, who I think is obviously it's going to be between Jannard Avery and Patrick Johnson, with Joe Osman being released this afternoon. But I think that he has a role for that Sam linebacker spot. The two primary linebackers are going to be Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson. But you didn't really see much in terms of coverage or anything like that. I don't think they want to tip their hand one way or the other. That's exactly why joint practices are so important, because they're able to do all these different give all these different looks and really get everybody in position and see what they like and see what they don't like, and different packages and formations. But as far as what I gauged from Jonathan Gannon through 2 preseason games, not a whole lot, but I'm excited to see what it's going to look like when the regular season rolls around. We do have a lot of different pieces, and it'll be interesting to see how he chooses to deploy them.
Yeah, I think well, let me ask you this. Do you anticipate seeing the starting players play on Friday night?
Well, that's a tough question, because you can make a case for it. I personally would, because Jalen Hurts played 10 snaps against the Steelers. Only had 4 starts last season. So again, to make that jump from a preseason game in August to the bright lights of the 1:00 game on September 12th against the Falcons, that's a big ask for any player, but definitely a player with such a limited resume as Jalen. But then there's that fine line. Do you want to risk exposing a player to injury that is so important to the team's success? Devontae Smith, I think he needs some reps. He played 26 snaps the other night, but I think that he's another one that needs to build that chemistry with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, so if it's me, I'm playing the starters. Do I think that it's going to happen? Based on some of the answers you've sort of heard, if you're looking to poke and prod with some of those answers, I would have to say that you're not likely to see too many starters play.
I would agree with
night.
you. I would agree with you. Let's see where these guys are in your mind right now. In or out? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, in or out?
I think he's out.
That's a disappointing end to a second-round pick there. All right, what about John Hightower?
Well, to elaborate on that, I thought that J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was going to be someone who looked like he was turning the corner and proving to be a multi-purpose player, added value as a special teams guy, but he really he looked like against the Steelers, he made a nice tackle, but then he only played 4 snaps on special teams, whereas Travis Fulgham played 11. Travis Fulgham looked adept at playing special teams, and he's a guy who I think is in contention, probably the front runner for that 5th spot.
All right. I agree with you. I'm kind of disappointed, and I don't want to say I'm disappointed in Sirianni so much, but I felt that if you were going to get something from Arcega-Whiteside, it's because of this coaching staff. And I think this kind of shows me that there's nothing to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like if they couldn't get it out of him, there must not be anything. What about John Hightower?
John Hightower is someone who I think, if you're looking, when you're looking at traits, especially for that final spot, he has that speed. He's a good route runner, but tracking the ball has always been a problem for him. I think he's someone you can get through waivers safely and sort of develop him on the practice squad. Not exactly a young prospect at 25 years old, hasn't been consistent enough to warrant that final spot. So I think he's out.
John Hightower, a pick from last year as well. It looks like, as we kind of talked about, Watkins has kind of performed. Hightower might be the guy who becomes the odd man out of that group. What about Jason Huntley, the running back?
I just going through the roster here. I mean, earlier this summer, I thought that he had a shot at sticking as the 5th running back, but I think that he's out. another guy that they're going to probably hope to get through waivers, but I think he might be one of those players that gets claimed by another team who's in dire need of running back depth.
You got the interesting draft picks here. Jacoby Stevens, who has been linebacker. He's missed some time with a hamstring. You anticipate him making the team?
I think he might be one of those players. You know how every year someone tends to get a phantom IR stash or an injury designation. I think that they really like him, but he's a raw player, and you wonder if he's going to be able to contribute immediately. If anything, he'll be a special teams demon and make his mark there. I think he's going to stick in some capacity.
All right, Josiah Scott is the corner they traded for. Is there a spot for him on this roster?
Yeah, I think he makes the team, and one of the added benefits of Josiah Scott is that he can play the nickel. That's really all, given his size, that's all he can play. But it gives Avonte Maddox flexibility to move around and give Jonathan Gannon flexibility to deploy him however he sees fit. He can play safety. He can give teams a number of different looks with Avonte Maddox. So having Josiah Scott is an added bonus. All
right. Yeah, these are a couple guys that will probably be on that bubble, and Friday night could be a big night for. You look at that guy too, like Hassan Ridgeway, because he's got two rookies he's battling with to make this team.
Yeah, Hassan Ridgeway has always flashed in his past couple of seasons, but he's always struggled to stay healthy. I think he's played in 14 games in 2 seasons. Hasn't flashed particularly during the summer practice sessions. So I think he's someone that makes the initial 53-man roster, but I think you could see the Eagles look to the waiver wire for a player that they like a little bit better, that they prefer, and maybe has a little bit more upside and stability there, because there is depth concerns there at defensive tackle after Milton Williams.
I guess I don't know that's a big night for, obviously I don't think Dillard is even going to play, but how do you anticipate the team making a trade involving Dillard? There's been some murmurs that the teams are calling for him. Do you see Dillard on the team September 12th?
Well, if I'm the Eagles, I'm not going to be too quick to unload Dillard without knowing what you have in the Raven Clark. Because then all of a sudden you're looking at Brett Toth or swinging Jack Driscoll out there to play tackle on a pinch or something to that effect, and then you severely deplete the depth on your offensive line. I think if LaRaven Clark looks like the player that they envisioned when they brought him on initially as a free agent, then I think you sort of field some calls on Andre Dillard. But as we've seen in the past, the Eagles have been just ravaged by injury on the offensive line, and it can quickly dwindle down. What looks like a luxury now tends to sort of dwindle down as the season goes on, and then that war of attrition. So I wouldn't be so quick to unput Andre Dillard.
Yeah, that should be something to keep an eye on. Did they get a call? Did they get, if somebody offers you a 3rd-round pick, do you change your mind on that?
Oh, a 3rd-round pick, absolutely. However, I don't know, given he's only played 16 games in the NFL, is 25 years old. I think he's 25 years old, and then doesn't have an illustrious resume. There's questions there about, play strength, and there's just a lot of concern swirling around Andre Dillard that I don't know if the team's going to be willing to part with a 3rd-round pick. I could see a 5th or a 6th-round pick for Andre Dillard, but when you're looking at it in terms of that, the Eagles are better off just keeping him on the roster.
Yeah, that one's one to keep an eye on, and I guess this season's going to start with Zach Ertz on the roster. Is that what we're feeling?
That's been what my gut's been telling me. I think Zach Ertz is going to open the season on the roster. I think the Eagles are going to use a lot of 2 tight end looks, and when they go 3 wide early in the season, I think Greg Ward's going to be the 3rd option.
All right, Eagles, Jets, Friday night right here, 97.3 ESPN. They close out the preseason, and obviously Joe Ostman, by the way, got waived today. Any surprise there from you?
He's someone that's been snake bitten, unfortunately, the past couple summers with injuries, and the Eagles definitely liked him. That was very obvious, and they envisioned a role for him. When I was at practice, he was very active, and they used him a lot and different looks and things like that. But unfortunately, if you're not available and you need to get down to a certain number, how do you justify keeping somebody around? I don't know that teams are going to be jumping at the chance to add a Joe Ostman to their roster right now, given the concussion situation. If they want to bring him back and revisit that at another time, I think that he'll be available. So But right now, the battle to look at is going to be that Sam spot with Jannard Avery and rookie Patrick Johnson.
Last thing for Andrew DeCecco, the linebacker spot is obviously you brought Wilson in, you have Singleton, and I think a lot of unknowns there. But what has your evaluation of the linebackers been through 2 games?
Well, I try not to make too much of 2 preseason games, but Mike, what I will say is that I've been thoroughly impressed with the linebacker situation. I would say the top 3. Alex Singleton has played 38 snaps in 2 games, 13 tackles, one of them being for a loss. He's always around the football. I think his skill set really complements Eric Wilson, who's more of a rangy, sideline to sideline, coverage acumen type player. And then TJ Edwards, to me, returned for his 3rd training camp looking in the best shape that he's been in. He looks leaner. He looks quicker, more fluid in coverage. And I think that he did that knowing that, you want to make yourself valuable and useful to the coaching staff and to be able to see the field and not just be typecast as this 2-down run defender who's just looked at as more of a thumper. He's 6'1", 240, but he's moved a little bit better. He had a nice pass breakup last week. So I think the top 3 are in pretty good standings there. And then that's when you look at the Sean Bradleys and Jacoby Stevens and players of that mold. Davion Taylor, you don't really know when he's going to be available. So, I mean, there's a lot of question marks after that, but I think the top 3 have shown some promise.
All right, Andrew DeCecco is back on Friday to preview the Eagles and the Jets. And, of course, you can only hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. DeCecco, NFL. Follow him on Twitter, InsideTheBirds.com, and the Inside the Birds podcast powers football at 4. All right, Andrew, take care, pal. Good stuff, man.
You too, Mike. Good talking to you.
As always, Andrew DeCecco. Always enjoy football conversation with him, Eagles and Jets. It's brought to you this hour by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. It is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, you can download the free mobile app. And if you do, you can message the show through the app. Just download the app at 973ESPN.com/app or in the Apple Store or Google Play. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Thank you for the people who have reached out about the World Series. I do appreciate that. I see some more text messages coming in. Congratulations. Thank you. Still not really registering that we won the World Series, but it actually did happen. It's amazing. Got some text messages on that. Got some people in the video chat who are watching the show who have posted in the comments section. I see you there, Jeffrey Johnson. Hey, Mike, great show, and thumbs up on the championship grind. Thank you so much. It was a grind, I'll tell you that. It was a grind, Jeffrey Johnson. When we come back, do you remember on this day? Well, I got the details coming up next.
Dealers are now charging for new cars and used vehicles. It's outrageous. But at Bennett Chevrolet, you still pay what GM supplier employees pay for brand new Chevys. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates. That's not either or, you get both. And that can save you up to 25% off MSRP. And Bennett has 0% financing available to save you even more. Got a trade? Bennett's paying top dollar. And we mean top dollar. A minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's a minimum $7,000 for any old clunker you can tow to our lot. And if it's in good shape, we'll pay more. And we'll buy your vehicle even if you don't buy one of ours. And Bennett makes it so easy. No sales pressure, no negotiating, just pure joy. Because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So you can see why nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet. Nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You and your phone have been through a lot this past year. It's been your lifeline to the world. And now some big wireless company is telling you got to buy a new phone from them and sign their contract? They don't control you. With TracFone Wireless, you can keep the phone, number, and network you already have. Already got a 5G phone? Keep that too. Because TracFone runs on America's best networks now with 5G nationwide. Plus, we've got unlimited talk and text smartphone plans starting at just $20. TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control. 5G nationwide access requires a 5G capable device. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Official message for New Jersey voters about the 2021 general election. With new in-person early voting, you can cast your ballot in person using a voting machine during a 9-day period starting October 23rd. However, if you always vote by mail, but now want to vote early in person instead, be aware that you must opt out of vote by mail with your county clerk by August 31st. Visit vote.nj.gov.
The Phillies just announced a couple of front office shakeups here. Some interesting stuff we'll get to on this day in just a second. The team announced a series of major changes in the front office. Scott Profrock is out as the assistant general manager. Brian Miniti is out as an assistant general manager, and Josh Bonifay is also out as the director of player development. Those two will move on to be consultants. Bonifay will serve as a scout, which means Dombrowski is making some moves in the front office there. So some interesting news considering we had Frank on earlier, and he was just kind of hinting at the possibility of some changes in the front office, and then sure enough, there it is. So some moves by the Phillies. We'll have more on our website right now at 973ESPN.com. You can check that out and let us know what you think about that by downloading the free mobile app and hitting this up on the Message Us button and letting us know about the Phillies' moves moving forward. They have made a little bit of a shakeup in the front office again. Scott Profrock is out. The president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski, announced changes today, effective immediately. Those three will no longer be a part of the front office, and Jorge Valendia will oversee the Phillies player development system on an interim basis. Dana Parks will also assist. You will also see Brian Barber, the director of amateur scouting, who kind of did the draft this year, I think, I'm pretty sure, kind of direct now report to Dombrowski. So you got a couple of shakeups there. I'm just kind of piece it all together as a thing just kind of came across just a couple of moments ago. Got an email from the Phils, just changes in the baseball operations. That is up now at 97.3ESPN.com. So the Phillies shake up the front office in a major way on this day. All right, so let's see what happened on this day. It is 24th of August. A couple things that happened on this day. Now, no Josh today. Josh is out today, so Josh will normally tell us, give us a little insight on some of these things, but I will play the role of both of us today, okay? So on this day, the 24th of August, these are things that happened on this day, August the 24th. Do you remember Pete Rose is banned from baseball for life for gambling? Okay, so this is a good one to kind of touch on. It happened on this day, 1989, August 29th. Pete Rose is banned from baseball for life for gambling. Now, I don't have any problem with Pete Rose being banned from baseball, okay? I do feel that Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, obviously, this is a discussion that goes on over and over and over. We hear about it all the time. I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is a museum. They should tell the story. They need to tell the damn story of Pete Rose and why the hits leader in your sport is not there. It is a sham and a shame that the Baseball Hall of Fame can't get its act together and tell the story. That's all we're asking. Tell the story. Tell the story of why Pete Rose isn't there. That's it. That's all I've ever asked over the years. You don't have to give him this huge, put him on a pedestal and make it a special day for him, but he should be in the Hall of Fame. All of these guys need to be in the Hall of Fame. It's a museum to tell the story of your game, and the fact that they don't do it is ridiculous. But on this day is the day that baseball has decided that Pete Rose would be banned for life from the game of baseball. It's still crazy. Like 1989, I was 12 years old, and yet I can remember, I think it was Fay Vincent at the time, was the commissioner of baseball, stating that Pete Rose would be banned for life from baseball. And you just couldn't believe it, right? You couldn't believe it. And here we are, 2021, and Pete is still not in the game. Now, he has done some things in the game of baseball. He has made a couple of appearances here and there. I think he was at the All-Star game one year and made a couple of appearances in that manner. And Jim Gray, of course, interviewed him in that whole little awkward situation. But he's still banned, cannot be in the Hall of Fame. And I think baseball needs to reevaluate that. It happened on this day, 1989. Pete Rose banned for baseball. 2004, Kerry Walsh and Misty May win the first of their 3 straight volleyball gold medals in the Olympics. I bring this up because the Olympics just kind of came and went. Was there any signature story at the Olympics this year? Misty May, trainer, Kerry Walsh, you remember those two like every single time the Olympics came around. Did you watch any of the Olympic volleyball this year? Like, you would put it on, and it just seemed like it just wasn't the same. The Olympics this year kind of fell flat, I felt like. I know the ratings weren't great, but was there a story that stood out in the Olympics this year? Did anything grab you from the Olympics? Because nothing so much for me. And when I read some of these do you remembers on this day, 2004, Kerry Walsh, Misty May, they win the first of their 3 straight beach volleyball gold medals. Like, the names, Kerry Walsh, Misty May, trainer. I can't remember a name from this year's Olympics. Did anybody stand out? 2008, USA basketball, the Redeem team. They beat Spain 118-107 to bring the gold back to USA after a disappointing bronze in 2004. The USA team was led by Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and Dwayne Wade. Pretty darn good. How about Kobe? Would have been 43. His birthday was the other day. Kind of crazy to see that. Happened on this day. The Redeem team beat Spain in 2008. Kobe, LeBron, Dwayne Wade. Put those 3 guys. Yeah, you should win gold. By 118-107, I feel like it should be more than that. On this day, 2013, for the first time in Major League Baseball history, the All-Star Game starters face each other in the same regular season. It's Max Scherzer pitching for the Tigers against Matt Harvey pitching for the Mets at Citi Field. It's the same site as the actual All-Star Game. Scherzer for the Tigers. He since went to Washington and now L.A. Matt Harvey, of course, is kind of flamed out. He was with the Reds, and now I think he's still with Baltimore. I don't know where his season has taken him. Baltimore's about 50 games out of first place. I know Harvey had an interesting local connection. He had been working out with the guys at the BBC, and they kind of got him back on the map a little bit, but I'm not sure. I got to check out Matt Harvey's season has gone here, right? Matt Harvey is with the Orioles, and, yeah, he's not having such a good year. 6-13, a 6.27 ERA in 25 starts. So, while it's admirable to see him back in baseball, it's amazing to see what happened to him. This was a guy who started the All-Star Game, took them to a World Series, was 13-8 with a 2.71 ERA, was 9-5 with a 2.27 ERA, and then since then the arm problems, at 26 years old, 27 years old, he started to just flame out. And here he is with Baltimore now this season at 32 years old. Not an old guy by any stretch of the imagination. 6.27 ERA for the Baltimore Orioles. Yep. What else do we got today? August the 24th. The fact that Matt Harvey started an all-star game is kind of crazy to me, too, by the way. Scherzer, I get. Scherzer pitched for the Dodgers the other night, by the way. What else we got today on this day? Yeah, it was Bart Giamatti, by the way. I say Faye Vincent, it was Bart Giamatti. On this day in 1998, Ken Griffey Jr. hits his 44th home run of the season. They beat the White Sox 11-10. Ken Griffey Jr., 1998, his 44th homer. Right now, 44 home runs on August the 24th. Pretty amazing when you think about it, right? Ken Griffey Jr., we were just talking about this the other day, baseball cards, collecting baseball cards, that whole phenomenon. That 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. card was probably still one of the most sought-after baseball cards in recent, 1989. Somebody sent me something the other day that from 2021 to 1980, okay, is the same amount of time from 1980 to 1939. So just think about when I say 1939, when I read these Do You Remembers, like 1939, it's the same amount of time when I tell you something from the 80s. 2007, Falcons quarterback Mike Vick pled guilty to federal charges regarding his involvement in a dogfighting ring. Shortly afterwards, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell suspended him indefinitely. He served 21 months in prison, but he returned to play for 7 more seasons. He signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, but he got pled guilty to federal charges on this day in 2007. And that is our Do You Remember for today. Mike Vick, 2007. Think about that. That was 14 years ago that Vick pled guilty. He's already played, he's already served time, been back, played, retired. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. All right, Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. This hour brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. We talk about PropSwap, and there's a perfect PropSwap opportunity that we talked about earlier on the show today, okay? The UCLA-Hawaii football game opened at 9. It's up to 18. You could have got that bet at 9 and sold that ticket at PropSwap.com. That's a PropSwap if I've ever heard one. Back with more.
Announcing the Enhanced Acura Certified Pre-Owned program with complimentary maintenance and 24/7 roadside assistance for up to 2 years or 100,000 miles. This is our most competitive limited warranty ever. From the streets of New York City in your 7-passenger MDX to the curves of the Pacific Coast Highway in your quick-to-react ILX. In the Certified Pre-Owned Acura, we're with you wherever you go. Select benefits available only during the 24-month, 100,000-mile limited warranty period.
For attractive offers on the entire Acura lineup, visit your Delaware Valley Acura dealer today.
Goodyear tires keep vehicles that are thousands of pounds traveling at high speeds firmly connected to the road for thousands of miles. Now, imagine what it's like having the same performance and quality on your Skechers. Introducing Skechers footwear with Goodyear rubber. We've taken the same high-performance rubber compound in Goodyear tires and fused it into Skechers high-quality, stylish footwear. Skechers uses Goodyear rubber to enhance our footwear's traction, durability, and stability in almost any weather condition on almost any surface for grip and long-lasting wear like you've never experienced. From high-performance running sneakers to cool sandals to rugged hiking boots to casual kicks and work footwear, Skechers with Goodyear rubber will give you the traction and stability you need to perform your best. Skechers is the leader in comfort technology with innovations like air-cooled memory foam, arch fit, stretch fit, relaxed fit, and so many more. Because they're Skechers, you know they're going to be comfortable. For comfort, performance, and durability, it's Skechers and Goodyear, where the sneakers meet the road. Find them at Skechers.com, a Skechers store, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
O'Reilly. When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
All right, 444 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I want to get back into the Phillies news that just came in and some more Phillies news moving forward here. The Phillies with a major shakeup in the front office. No, Dave Dombrowski is not stepping down or gone, but Scott Profrock is out, as are a couple of scouts, and you can read more about it at 973ESPN.com. In a press release, the Phillies general manager and president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski, said, actually, he's only the president of baseball operations. Sam Fold is technically the general manager. He said, quote, "Change is always difficult, but sometimes necessary. I appreciate and respect Brian, Scott, and Josh for the contributions they have made to the organization, but I believe it is time to take our player development department in a new direction. These staffing changes will provide the opportunity to begin that process." Now, the only guy, that I know a lot about would be Profrock. Profrock has been with the team since 2008, really. I mean, he has been a part of the World Series teams. He's been the assistant GM. He's been on the show plenty of times, so I know Scott pretty well. You can make an argument that this is a changing of the guard, a changing of the philosophy, if you will, right? That it's a situation where they look at this roster and this team and the moving forward of what they want to do, and they say we need a new philosophical viewpoint on how we evaluate talent, because they have not done a good job in that regard. So I don't know that this is, hey, Profrock or Profrock is an interesting guy because how long he's been here. He's definitely the guy who has probably the most clout of that group. I mean, name-wise, he is definitely the most recognizable guy of that group of names that we just mentioned. Bonifay, who Frank talked about a little earlier when he was on with us, and it's interesting because as soon as Frank got off, about an hour later, Frank was on at 2:40 today. An hour later, he was relieved of his duties. I said, well, he got reassigned. Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what dominoes now come from that. What happens next when you talk about the Phillies and this front office thing, right? Also, I got this news. It just kind of came down. I am kind of scouring as we are having this conversation live on the air. So the Phillies have activated Freddie Galvis, right? And Sam Coonrod from the injured list. So the Phillies, remember, they traded for Galvis back on July the 30th. He has not played yet. Coonrod, they got in the offseason. He has been out as well. To make room, the Phillies needed to clear two players. One was Enyo De Los Santos, who got optioned to AAA, and Jorge Bonifacio, who made a start in center field for the Phillies. I guess why I was gone, because I never heard of him, was designated for assignment. Now the Phillies have a 40-man roster spot, and I would imagine you're going to see Adam Haseley return here pretty soon. Now, Galvis is not in the lineup tonight, even though he is back and healthy. He is finally ready to play, and I think this is a very interesting situation now moving forward, okay? Because to me, Freddie Galvis is a better option at shortstop, clearly, defensively, than Didi Gregorius. That is not questioned. Didi has been a significant disappointment at that spot. He has been utterly disappointing at that spot, okay? But are they going? Now, I suggested yesterday, with Bohm out, you play Galvis and Torreyes at third in a platoon. Now Galvis is a switch hitter, okay? And he is a better right-handed hitter than he is a left-handed hitter. So that muddies the waters a little bit here. But you could essentially platoon those two guys at third and do the same at short. If you want to get Didi at bats against right-handed pitching, you could essentially do that. But I feel like Galvis almost has to be in the lineup 75 to 80% of the time. Both those guys, Torreyes and Galvis, are just too good defensively. They are too good defensively to not have them play every single day the way this team plays defense. The one thing that is lacking from this team, okay, they don't have their bullpen is not great. It's gotten better with Kennedy at the back end, right? It's gotten better with Kennedy at the back end. We can kind of admit that. And their bullpen, like, they haven't blown a game since really since the All-Star break. There's not one that kind of stands out where that bullpen really was a problem for them. So their bullpen is average, right? Their bullpen is average. Their starting pitching has become much better. Their offense kind of was a problem. But where are they the weakest? Defensively. That's where their problems are, defensively. So they have to find a way to get the best defensive team out on the field. And that means Galvis has to play and Torreyes has to play. So what I would anticipate, and now there's no Hoskins in the lineup tonight. So what I would anticipate is that you're going to see more of Galvis play shortstop and Torreyes play third. You could see those guys together, Didi off the bench to hit for one of those two. Now, here's the thing. Galvis is not having a great year at the plate. That is one situation, is that Galvis has not had a great year offensively. He has displayed in the past, however, that he can hit. I mean, hit for power, by the way. Galvis has been a guy in the past who has had quite a few home runs. Hit 23 home runs just a couple of years ago, had 18 with Toronto, and then another 5 with Cincinnati that year. He had 20 home runs with the Phillies in 2016, but obviously Didi's a guy who can hit the ball over the fence too. Both of these guys are struggling with the average, but Galvis this year at 249 has been better than Didi is, and 9 home runs for Freddie Galvis. So I am very intrigued at how they will end up using Galvis moving forward here. So Galvis is finally over. He had a right quad strain. He's been on the injured list since way back in June when he was with the Orioles. He got traded at the deadline. So you're talking about July 30th. He has been here, and he has still not played. So he will basically be a super utility guy for this team. 249, 9 homers, 26 RBI for the Orioles this year. Terrific glove, can hit from both sides of the plate. I think you're going to see a lot of Galvis. I think he'll end up playing more so than Torreyes is. Torreyes is one of those guys that if you overexpose him, you would be, you're going to start to see his average go from 270 down to, say, 240, down to, say, 220. You got to pick your spots with Torreyes is how we would play that one. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Text board always open for you. And, of course, you can download the free mobile app and get the show on the go. Download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play. I'm looking at the standings because of last night, what happened with the Braves. They ended up losing to the Yankees last night. 5-1, I think the game was last night. I think, the Mets, the Yankees and the Braves, if I heard this correctly today, they played for the first time in 101 years that two teams with a 9-game winning streak faced off against each other. How about that? The Yankees have now won 10 in a row. They finally knocked off the Braves, who had won 9 in a row. And with that loss last night, the Braves are now 4.5 games up on the Phillies. Now, Atlanta plays the Yankees. Philadelphia gets matched up with Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay is 29 games over 500, right? And they are 4 games up on the Yankees in the American League East. Conversely, Atlanta has now put themselves 11 games over 500, which is amazing because Philadelphia is just 2 games over 500. But with that, Philadelphia is 4.5 games back in the National League East. The Phillies need to start getting in that Braves 9 out of 10 area that they had before they went onto that little skid against Arizona. So that's what's tonight. Your pitching matchup for the Phils, as we talked a little earlier, it's Ranger Suarez against Rasmussen tonight for the Tampa Bay Rays. I gave you the lineups. I got the details over at 97.3ESPN.com. All right, Drew Rasmussen is starting for Tampa, Ranger Suarez for Philadelphia. When we come back, it's Tuesday with Thompson. It is the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. A Tuesday with Thompson, the PT's here. Rob Motti's here at 5:25, and you're out there. Stick with me. We got plenty more info, entertaining, always fun. All the details on the moves the Phillies just made over on our website, 97.3ESPN.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. This hour has been brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. All right, when we come back, the PT's here. I look forward to a Tuesday with Thompson. It's been a while. I haven't seen the PT in some time. That's next. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. All right, here we go. It is a Tuesday, which means it is a Tuesday with Thompson. The PT is here. I'm your host, Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. And Pete Thompson, it is good to see you, sir. I haven't seen or heard from you in quite some time. It's good to see you. We should have a little fun with this today. It's always entertaining when, we haven't seen or talked to each other in quite some time to kind of play catch-up live on the radio.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Congratulations. That was a heck of a run by you guys up there, and I'd like to start off by saying that I wrote about you in Shore Local. This week's Shore Local will highlight you and the boys right off the top of the column.
Wow,
so make sure you pick that up. I put the headline as "We are the champions," and I said right off the bat, and deservedly so, I'd like to recognize the Atlantic Shore 13U Babe Ruth baseball team as they went to Jamestown, New York, and won the Babe Ruth World Series. And then I steal some lines from you, including every player's name and the bat boy, Roman. We got to throw him in there, too. Plus,
oh, yeah, Roman was the man.
Plus all your coaches. They're all in there as well. So, nice job, Mike Gill. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. It was a wild ride. Let me tell you, it was certainly not anticipated. I can tell you that much. We walked off that field looking at each other like, we were driving home. Like, can you believe? We actually rewatched the game on the drive home just to actually make sure that we saw the right. You know what's funny? So my girlfriend's mother quote unquote, watched the game, right?
I was so happy for you.
She watched the wrong game.
Oh, boy, that sounds like something I would do.
The game was on like a video service that you could watch. They did them all live, but all the old games were archived. She was watching an archived game, so she's giving Heidi the updates. Like, oh, the Tallahassee's changing their pitcher, and Heidi's telling me this. I said, I'm thinking in my head, we didn't play Tallahassee, but, whatever, minor details, like whatever.
Right. Maybe she's getting it, maybe she just saw the name wrong.
Yeah, well, eventually she said, oh, you beat them 9-1. And I was like,
that wasn't the final.
No. This game was a knockout, drag-out fight. I mean, it came down to the last pitch. I mean, it was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
Wow. Well, I think it's awesome news for you, buddy, and all the boys. And I'm happy that I was at Vagabond for the fundraiser. I know this is, you've always been a bridesmaid, never a bride, so to speak. So congratulations on finally crossing the Rubicon. And every year I say to you when you get started with Babe Ruth, I'm like, how are you guys? Oh, they're terrible.
No, I don't say not terrible.
Not terrible, but you always – like in the beginning, you always are very skeptical of the talent that you have. And that's part of your challenge as a coach to mold them into winners and get them to be cohesive teammates and stuff. How great was it that you got to go to Niagara Falls too?
It was it was amazing. You ever been there before?
I've been on the Canadian side. I've never been on the American side, or maybe I've been on both. I think I was on the Canadian side for a high school trip, and then I was on the American side for a Boy Scouts trip earlier than that. But I never did like you were down. Did you do Maid of the Mist or something like that? You were
we did the Maid of the Mist, and some people did, one of the cave type things.
Oh, fun! So I've been to both sides, but I've never actually been out on the water there. I've just sort of been.
Well, which is interesting. So what we do as a league, we actually had one of the parents that came up with this. And she had a Hank sauce from Sea Isle actually donated just a ton of the hot sauces, right?
Okay.
So we gave one of the 5 flavors. We gave each flavor to each team. So they got
very good.
So they each got 5 bottles of the hot sauce. Okay.
All right. Nice.
So we gave that to each of the teams. Well, the Buffalo team was like, thanks for the hot sauce. Here's hot sauce, right?
Right.
So they appreciated the hot sauce that we gave them, that they countered with the original hot sauce from the Anchor Bar in Buffalo.
Oh, nice. And did you try it?
I have it at the house. And then he said, well, this is the original wing bar, the Anchor Bar, but that's a tourist place. This place, Duff's, is the one that you should really try. Well,
that's
so we gave us a bottle from each place that I have at my house. Cool. And we went to Duff's in Niagara Falls and got wings there.
Well, this is pretty neat. So there's a lot of social aspect to this too, the mixing of the teams and the exchanging of gifts and the parade, I know, is always a big thing. And then,
the Hawaiian team,
right?
The Hawaiian team gave us a bag, and each kid on our team got a Hawaiian necklace, and they all got Hawaiian chocolate.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. No, look, I think it's a great thing just to even make it that far. Like you wrote in your piece that this is the third time that you made it that far, but the first time you've actually won it, and that's pretty incredible. I mean, that's an experience. I wrote this in my column as well. At the very end, I said they now all have a collective experience that they will never forget. Sure, 13U Babe Ruth World Series champions, and that's the start of my column. It'll be out on Thursday. You can start seeing it Thursday, and then Friday in the Wawas and the CVS and all that stuff. So.
Well, that is very cool and nice. Sal Palantonio actually put the picture of the Jamestown newspaper. We were on the front cover of the paper up there, and he put that on his Instagram today.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, Sal Pal's your guy.
Yeah.
Now, can he tell us what's going on with Jalen Hurts' stomach?
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because you don't really think that there's some conspiracy theory here. Josh is telling me that you and Billy Schweim, of all people,
I don't know that
collaborated
we were like the
on some nonsense that the Eagles went to the hospital and had them collaborate a story that he wasn't feeling well. Is this what you're trying to pawn off on me?
Oh, I'm not trying to pawn anything. There was 2 points I was trying to make, and I don't know that I ever fully made them. One, I thought that the story was a little too near and dear to Josh's heart because he has his own gastrointestinal issues. So I thought he might be a little biased and wearing gastro-colored glasses, if you will. I just thought he might be a little slanted toward believing when it seemed skeptical. Of course, they come out today and double down and say, well, he wouldn't have missed a game if it was a regular season game. All right, well, doesn't that then admit that they just erred on the side of caution? I'm not saying that it's total fake, but I really have a problem with a guy that's dancing laps in the end zone, and all of a sudden you're trying to portray it like he was taken to the hospital. Like, really?
I just don't understand why they would have to make that up. Like, if it's an exhibition game, most people don't play anyway. Why would they just say we didn't want him to play?
Well, and that's the thing. And the bigger issue, too, was after he realized that Jalen Hurts wasn't going to play, then he just pulled the whole starting offensive line. I mean, he basically pulled a lot of the starters. There weren't very many people.
Right, so that would tell me that this is accurate because if this was like a spur-of-the-moment thing, he changed on the fly. They intended to play all those guys until that happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and again, I was never disputing that, he had
Well, that's not what I heard. In fact, we had a text message from a listener who suggested that you, Pete Thompson, said, and I'll quote from the text message, Pete Thompson took it so far as to say that the Eagles have connections at the hospital that would go along with this ruse. Shake my head.
Wow, that's reading more into it than was actually discussed. My main point was that I thought Josh was a little too close to it. My secondary point was that, yeah, of course, if it was a ruse, then they are going to send him to the hospital and continue that thing. I mean, all right, who cares? What I care about is the fact that the guy hasn't had any real preseason work, barely any. And do you expect him to play against the Jets?
No, but here's the thing.
I don't.
No, but here's the thing, Pete Thompson. The football world has changed, or should I call you Billy Schweim?
No, that's fine.
The football world has changed, and Miles Sanders said it today. These joint practices, he said, we're getting more reps in those practices than anything. We're getting all the reps. The starters are getting a majority of the reps in the joint practices because nowadays, the world we live in, everything's got to be controlled. In a preseason game, you might never get 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 3. Now they can say it's 3rd and 3. Let's practice that play 10 times.
Right. All right. Well, and I will say this, okay? So if that's the case, that the training sessions are more important than the preseason games because of the way they can set them up, then the Eagles ones did beat the Patriots ones from all accounts in the joint practices at the NovaCare complex.
And again today against the Jets. Apparently they dominated the session with the Jets.
So, and then the second thing is, if that's the case, if these joint practice sessions are more valuable to coaches than the actual preseason games, then what the hell are we putting the preseason games
Well,
up?
I mean, you don't need to answer. You don't need to ask that question and really get it answered. You know the reason. You're a smart man, Pete Thompson.
I do.
Don't be Billy Schweim and ask dumb questions, okay?
It's
the
not a
answer
dumb
to
question.
the question is simple. The preseason games are there for money, not to make the roster.
Well, and not for nothing, but they used to be there to evaluate talent. It doesn't look like they're evaluating much talent in the games.
No, nobody wants to play these games. Nobody wants to play the games except for the owners who want the gate. That's it.
It does. Your theory, and I'm subscribing to this now, that the joint practices are more important than the games, would lend itself to a shroud of secrecy that the league likes anyway. You know, the joint practices aren't televised, right? The joint practices, by the time anything actually resembles something that looks like a play, all the TV cameras are gone, right? When Jalen Reagor had the incredible one-handed catch in practice last week against the Patriots, where did that come out on video? From one source and one source only, the actual Philadelphia Eagles Twitter account. Nobody else had it, right?
No, you're
not allowed
absolutely
to have
right.
your
Now,
phones out or video.
And in that comment from Miles Sanders, he said, I know you guys don't get to see the practices, but we are getting a lot of the reps in the practices. That's what he said. You know, I heard him. Yeah, I guess it was yesterday after their practice. I think or maybe it was Sunday.
Well, they had the joint practice, or they were supposed to have the joint practice, not the joint, the public practice on Sunday, and then that got moved inside because of the weather and all that stuff. I mean, they still had a practice, but it wasn't the same as what they would have done.
What Sanders said, PT, was, quote, the starters, we are all getting a lot of reps in these joint practices. I know you guys might not see all of us play in the preseason games, but we are definitely getting a lot of work in joint practices. So if I told you they are getting 80% of the snaps in the joint practice in quote-unquote game replication, is that okay? Or would you rather see them? See, the fans are saying, we're paying money, we want to see you. I get that aspect, but it's not like they're doing nothing.
I mean, look, I still think that game reps are more important than a joint practice rep, but I'm gonna stick to that theory until I'm proven otherwise. If Jalen Hurts comes out in the first 3 games of the season, he's like got an incredible passer rating, and he's lighting the world on fire, maybe I won't be as bothered by it. But until I see otherwise, it does bother me a little bit that the guy basically, what did he have? 1 series, 2 series?
I think he's played, I think, like, he had 7 pass attempts or something like that. Yeah, he hasn't played all that much, but I will say this, PT. I think we all remember Sam Bradford going 10 for 10 and us saying, oh, so did it really matter?
True. Yeah, that's true. Sam Bradford lit up the Packers and we all drank the Kool-Aid. Well, some people did.
Well, and it's like all these guys, the Paul Turners of the world who go out and have 10 catches in a game. And you have 10 catches in a game and you're like, how come this guy can't play? And then when he gets into a regular season game, you're like, how come that guy's on the field?
Let's see here. Touchdown pass from Hurts to tight end Dallas Goedert from 40 yards out. First team offense scored the 2-minute drill at the end of practice. Touchdown from Hurts to Reagor near the goal line, and then a couple of defensive pass interference calls. And then he also threw to Watkins on a rollout earlier in practice that Watkins pulled in. So, yeah, it sounds like there were some good reps today in the joint practice.
Yes, well, and what
not the game that I love. We're talking about
but
practice.
What has been reported, Peter, is that the Eagles' defensive line really took advantage of the Jets' and offensive line, one up front there pretty well. So that's good to hear. I do want to get your take on a couple of Phillies things, because while I was gone, they were in first place. When I came back, they're 5 games out, now 4.5 after last night. Today, they made some major shakeups in the front office. Scott Profrock and a couple of others demoted.
I mean, I was a little surprised to see that release come out. It came out late, but yeah, I guess, look, they obviously can't be happy with some of their talent development, I suppose, and some of the things that are going on front office wise, you know. So what? Yeah, Scott Profrock and Brian Minetti, is that the other guy's name?
Yep,
and they're both out.
And Bonifacio, or not Bonifacio. At the same time as the front office thing, they made a couple roster moves, which Galvis got activated and Coonrod got activated. Bonifacio and De Los Santos got demoted.
Okay.
Bonify is the guy who got basically demoted.
Right. Well, look, they got to do something. I mean, you can't put a baseball team out that, I thought they were set up and perfectly going into the Arizona series in Arizona, and they went out and just stunk up the joint. They laid an egg. I think the number was like 7 for 60.
Terrible.
With 4 runs total scored in all 3 of those games. I think that was what it was. So, to me, and as much as I hate to admit it, because sometimes he drives me crazy, Rhys Hoskins actually is like a straw that stirs the drink.
He's not in the lineup tonight, Peter.
Well, I guess they got to go with him when they can. Yeah, 7 for 60 in their plate appearances over 3 games there against Arizona. Now they did win 2 out of 3 from the Padres, but these Phillies they're just driving me crazy. You just don't know which Phillies you're going to get. The schedule again is favorable, other than Tampa's pretty good, but Arizona for 4 and going to Washington for 3, fine, because the Braves are dealing with the Yankees, Giants, and Dodgers. But it is a roller coaster. Will I watch? Yes, but it drives me crazy.
It does, Peter. And guess what? They have the easiest schedule left in baseball the rest of the way. I almost want them to play the harder schedule because they're playing Pittsburgh and Baltimore, because all that does is piss you off more when you lose to terrible teams.
Yeah, I don't know that I've been as mad as I was after they got out of the Arizona series. And then, of course, I was pretty darn frustrated the other night. I really was looking forward to seeing a good Aaron Nola pitch. I got invested into that.
I was driving home that night. We were watching the game.
Right?
Yeah, we were watching the game on the phone, driving home, or the laptop. We had YouTube TV on in the car. And I turned it on right when Cronenworth came to the plate.
Right, and Cronenworth took him out. And the thing is, I didn't realize this. First of all, it wasn't T-Mac. It was his kid that called the games, right? And he did a very nice job, I thought. I'm not going to rip him at all. I thought he did an excellent job. In fact, I almost dare I say it, I thought he was better than Greg Murphy at times, because he is a true play-by-play guy, right? But, boy, when that ball went over the wall, and I thought Jankowski did everything he could to try and keep it into the park, but, that was really disappointing to me of, what else do you want out of Aaron Nola? He basically gave, everything he had, 117 pitches. And, he had a perfect game, for God's sakes, through 6 innings.
I know when I turned the game on, Pete, he had 10 strikeouts and 1 hit. And I'm like, oh, okay. By the way, just before
don't forget his double. That's what you're talking about. Yeah, that double is hit. That's part of the problem. Again, 7 for 60 in that series. They were 7 for 60.
Yeah, the offense was terrible. Before we roll, it was just announced that Dick Vermeil has been named a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Well, it's basically going to come down to him and Mike Holmgren is everything that I'm reading. But if you watched, or I don't know where you were in your travels at that point, but Harold Carmichael made a nice little shout out to him at the podium in Canton when he went in and acknowledged Dick Vermeil and said, you're overdue. I hope you're next. And I think a lot of Dick Vermeil's former players feel that way. I'd love to see him go in there. Now, Mike Holmgren's numbers are a little better, but the sentimentality of it may actually be like, we'll put Dick Vermeil in on this vote, and then we'll put Holmgren in on another one.
It's funny, PT, because Sal Pal texted me, and I guess Sal Pal made a big push for Carmichael.
Harold. Yeah,
right.
I didn't know that till I heard you say it, and then in his speech, I heard Harold reference Sal Pal.
Yeah. Well, Sal Pal just texted me, I don't know, about an hour ago. He said Vermeil is in the Hall of Fame back-to-back, Harold and Dick. So I don't know how much push he had there, but when I saw that, I was like, that's interesting. And then I saw that it's announced all over the place that, Vermeil's going to essentially, this means he's going to get in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, but what about Holmgren? Isn't Holmgren also listed too? Aren't they both finalists?
That I didn't see the whole list.
Okay. Well, that makes 2 of us.
I like
the thing I saw earlier was that they were both they were the front runners to
get in next year.
Yes, to go in next year. Yeah.
No, that's good. It's nice to see that. So I know that that'll be probably a topic of conversation on the Sunday edition of the Locker Room.
Well, very much so.
Yeah, Billy's had Vermeil on a couple times.
Okay, so he is the coach finalist. All right, I'm just looking at this. Yeah, it was about 40 minutes ago. It says Cliff Branch, the Raiders wide receiver and 15-year NFL head coach, Dick Vermeil, the senior finalist and the coach finalist, respectively.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but now I guess he still has to get the votes. But if he's nominated, then he's basically in, right?
Do you have an air fryer?
We do. Absolutely, we do. We use the heck out of it. We just used it last night. Now, what was my meal that I didn't finish?
We just got one
the other night. Yeah, they're
great. I just got one. I got to figure out how to use it. I made a steak last night. It was it cooked it too much. It's like I got to learn how some tricks here.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to overcook it because essentially all you're doing is drying it out. But there's certain things that heat up better in the air fryer. Like, first of all, easiest one is French fries. If you have anything with French fries and you're going to reheat your fries, soggy, damp fries that are in the fridge, throw those bad boys in the air fryer. And quite frankly, those ones you can't overcook. But yeah, Susan made pork chops the other night, and I could only eat a little with my reduced ability. And I ate what I ate. I think I had 1.5 pork chops, or maybe I had 2, and there was 1.5 left. And so last night she threw the other 1.5 in the air fryer, and they were delicious.
Yeah, I just got to, Heidi's kind of, I don't know if I like it. I'm trying to convince her. No, this is the way we got to go.
Don't give up. Don't give up. There's a lot of good things you can heat up in that air fryer. Trust me.
All right. I'm watching Atypical on Netflix.
Oh, I watched, and
Season 4.
Heidi May might like this. I watched Outer Banks. Now, I don't know if that makes me.
That's where I'm going next week.
Yeah, it was excellent. I mean, it's filmed actually in South Carolina, but it had everything I wanted. It had teenage drama, and it had, beautiful people, and it had, murder.
Oh, I think her son
and
watched
a treasure.
That.
Oh,
I think her son's watching.
I have something in common with her son.
Yeah. All right,
Good
Peter.
to talk to you, buddy.
I won't be here Friday.
What?
I'm going on vacation.
Again?
Well, I wasn't really on vacation before.
Working vacation. Got it.
Man, I was working. I was writing all the articles. I had to record.
I was retweeting them. I know. Yeah.
All right, Peter.
Good to talk to you. Good to see you.
Man. Good to see you. All right, Tuesday with Thompson. That was it right there. Good stuff. It's in the books for today. He'll be back for happy hour Friday with Josh is filling in on Friday's show. I'll be back sometime next year. When we come back, we're going to talk a little NFL with Rob Motti from the Associated Press. Next. All right, 5:28. We ran a little long there, but we're back live with you. Brought to you by Dell. For your small business needs, call a Dell Technologies advisor today, 877-ASK-DELL. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show. Rob Motti's here for the Associated Press, and he's going to be joining us a couple times a week during the football season, which is now here. The football season is now here, and Rob Motti is here as well. What's going on, Rob?
What's up, Mike? I hope you had a great time last week. I enjoyed Josh a couple times. Hoping you didn't get Wally Pipp. Josh, a good dude, but I'm glad you're back, too.
I am back. I was coaching baseball, and we won the World Series, man.
How awesome is that? Congratulations.
It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. That's why it took a little longer than I anticipated. But what's that?
I said, you're the Charlie Manuel of Little League Baseball.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, well, these kids are 13. They're older than the Little League guys. It's like the next year up, but it was a wild thing. We were out there for 10 days, but back in the saddle, ready for football. So let's go over some things that we now know. Let me get your thoughts on the whole preseason joint practices. What do these teams value more?
I think the joint practices are valued a whole lot more than the preseason games. And I believe, Mike, they're vital because that's how you can evaluate your guys without actually showing anything. Because we know in the preseason games, offense is vanilla, defense is vanilla, guys hardly play because teams can see that and they get the film on what the preseason games look like. Joint practices, no one can see it other than the people there who are present. There's no film going out. There's no tape going out. So coaches feel a lot more freedom to be able to go out there and install part of their game plans, especially when they're doing joint practices like the Eagles did with the Patriots, who they're not going to see this year unless both teams are in the Super Bowl. Doing it with the Jets, who they are going to see this year, I believe they're going to scale back significantly in those joint practices. But when I asked Nick about it, Nick Sirianni, I believe it was on Sunday, how much more value do you put on it? He said it's another tool. He didn't want to say it's more valuable than the games, but I feel it's significantly more valuable than the games.
Right. So you're suggesting that in these joint practices, they will actually show more things, stuff that they would do in a regular season, more elaborate defensive schemes, blitzing stuff, and more of their offensive playbook will come out in the joint practice, and that would not come out in a preseason game.
Yeah, you'll never see that in a preseason game. I don't believe you're going to see anything anymore in a preseason game that you're going to use it. It's going to be as basic as can be, but you'll see more of that. Now, you're not going to show everything in the joint practices just because people talk, but you're going to show a lot more in these joint practices, and that allows teams to actually get in a rhythm, build some chemistry with each other, some of the guys who haven't played together, and they can see what they're going to look like early in the season. But I believe, Mike, September is going to be in the NFL. It's been trending this way. It's going to be the new August where teams are feeling their way through September.
Yeah, and I know last year there was no preseason. So some people said, hey, we didn't need any preseason. And I know they'll never go down that road because it's a monetary thing, correct? The preseason games are going to become money grabs and for the younger back end of the roster guys to get a little tape on them, essentially.
Money's a huge issue, right? Money's going to be a huge issue. NFL owners are not going to want to do away with the 1 or 2 gates that they're going to get alternating years, and they're going to need it for the NFL's got the TV going. You got the networks paying all billions, not millions, billions of dollars, and it's a money maker. No matter how much people complain about preseason football, how bad we think it is, it's football. And people are watching, they're talking, they're paying attention, and we're always going to have it. It may get down to 2 games. I'm not sure. That could potentially be something we see in the future. But right now, as of the most recent CBA, which was only 2 years ago, it's 3 games, and we're going to see those 3 preseason games.
Rob, obviously Jalen Hurts. First off, do you anticipate him playing Friday night at all?
I'd be surprised, Mike, because of these joint practices. I think if he plays at all on Friday, it would be just a cameo. I can't imagine they're going to put him out there. So I think they're going to do a ton of their work in these joint practices and then ride out the Friday night game with Nick Mullins and Joe Flacco.
All right. So with that, I want to get your opinion on what this season means for the Eagles. In other words, what is the number one thing that they need to try to figure out about this team this season? It's got to be Jalen Hurts, right?
Mike, absolutely. 100%. To me, the number one priority this year is finding out if Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy in 2022. And if you find out this year that he is that guy, that's significant because that allows you to do different things with the number going a different direction. So I feel the number one priority is certainly finding out about Jalen. And it's not just, to me, that would be a big step towards a successful season. Even if you're 6-11, 7-10, whatever it is, but you know what Jalen is, you've had a successful
Right. In other words, the evaluation of him, regardless of record, if you're 3-15, what would you be? 3-12, 3-13, 3-14, I guess would be your new record. You would say, okay, he did not have a good year.
14.
Yeah, terrible year, right? Terrible season. I don't think that's going to be the case. But what is the high watermark for you with this team? What is the best case scenario do you see? You have a best case scenario?
9-8. I think
okay,
best
so
case
9-8.
scenario is 9-8. If the offensive line, to me, the best case scenario would be, 9-8. And in order to get there, you're going to need a lot to go right, Mike. You're going to need the offensive line to be healthy. You're going to need that offense to live up to and forward. You take Smith to be the number one wide receiver you thought he is.
I said 10 and 7 would be mine. And the same thing. If the offensive line can stay together as a group for a majority of this season, Wentz was so terrible last year. I hate to say it, but he just was so bad. Yet they were 3-6-1 in one-score games. I mean, if he just played average, who knows what their record may have been. And Hurts was an average quarterback. If he could play average all year with a healthy line, what does that mean for this team? I don't know. But, man, you got some bad quarterback play last year.
No, it was terrible. It was terrible. Carson was bad. Offensive line was decimated. Wide receivers couldn't make plays. The defense couldn't make stops at times. It was all around. Play calling was awful. That was as bad as a football season as you'll see. And somehow they're in that Dallas Cowboys game with Jalen Hurts, and they're leading, and they got a chance to win the NFC East because the NFC East was so bad last year, right? But and I don't think the NFC East is going to be much better this year. I think 9-8, 10-7 is going to win that division. I don't see a team in the NFC East winning more than 10 games. So I think the Eagles, in a best-case scenario, between 6 to 8 wins, I'm closer towards 7 or 8 than I am 6. They'll be in a mix in December, Mike.
Let me get your thoughts on this whole Dillard thing. I guess teams are making calls here. And when people hear that, of course, everyone's like, this guy's not going to play, do something. Should the Eagles look to move Dillard, or would you rather keep him?
You can't get anything for him. I know people are going to inquire about him. They're going to inquire about everybody on your roster. You're going to inquire about guys on other teams' rosters. But at this point, what does Andre Dillard get you on the open market? He's a guy who hasn't played since his rookie year, played sparingly, didn't show much, was injured last year, has been injured much of training camp. He's closer right now, I don't want to say it, but he's trending towards bust than he is somebody who is going to be a first-round pick and live up to that potential. However, that said, Mike, I'm not going to give him away. I'm going to trust in a new coaching staff with an old offensive line coach in Jeff Stoutland, the guy who's been around for a number of coaches, and hope that if Andre Dillard's healthy, he can develop him. They saw enough in him to make him a first-round pick. I would have ride it out with him a healthy season. If he goes a healthy year this season and he can't do anything, if he's healthy this year and he can't get on the field, all right, now I'll look to move him. And probably won't get anything for me in that case either. But I I don't value a 7th-round pick right now, and I don't think Howie would either. I think Howie invested a first-round pick in Andre Dillard, would rather see him succeed here than give him away for a 6th or 7th-round pick.
All right, Rob Motti with the Associated Press, covers the NFL and the Eagles, is with us on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There was a one of these polls over at The Athletic that polled 33 different agents, 7 of which said Howie Roseman is the most dishonest GM. Is that a good trait or a bad trait to be viewed as the general manager of a team? Is it good to be viewed? Because Belichick won the award, I guess, last year, and Roseman has overtaken him.
Yeah, and you know what? I read some of those comments, Mike. I read some of those comments from some of the agents, and I've heard worse things, and I've heard some agents say nicer things about Howie. Here's the problem. I've heard players say the same thing. And when players don't trust Howie Roseman, that's the problem.
Right.
And I've heard that from a number of players, not just former. I've heard that from still on the roster players. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
That said, right? All that said, some players don't trust him. Some agents don't trust him. He did a step.
We're talking with Rob Motti. We have a little bit of a connection issue here with Rob as we get ready here on this Tuesday for this Eagles-Jets matchup on Friday night, as Rob kind of chronicled. They'll anticipate seeing a lot, as he mentioned, these joint practices of kind of taking over in the NFL. And so a couple of things. So, Rob, before we roll out today, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Travis Fulgham, and this wide receiver room, how do you think the Eagles are kind of evaluating what they have at wide receiver? You mentioned Smith. They got Rieger. They've got Ward. But is that the most intriguing room, I guess, throughout the rest of this training camp, is that wide receiver situation?
It is. It's right there also. I look at the running backs. That's a good one. But the wide receiver situation, like I look at a guy like Greg Ward, a veteran who's been here, and he's got to be on a bubble, because you look at Devontae Smith, Jalen Rieger, right? Quez Watkins has shined. John Hightower is a draft pick last year who's got potential. And now it comes down to, if you go 5 or 6, Travis Fulgham, and you got to look at Greg Ward, and you got to look at J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who was a draft pick a couple of years ago. And by accounts from, it's funny, Mike, some people will watch practice and tell you Travis Fulgham was terrible, and some will say he was good. Some will tell you J.J. Arcega-Whiteside hasn't done anything, and some will tell you he's done well. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out.
All right, that is something, Friday night I'm interested to see of that group, who ends up playing and how they look and what that means to this roster. It's the last chance to see them Friday night. Rob Motti, check out his Faith on the Field show, by the way. You can hear that here on 97.3 ESPN. Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Rob does a great job with that show for those of you out there who listened. And again, it re-airs on Sunday at 5:30, so you can hear it twice here. You know who's on this week? Who's your guest this week? It looks like we got a little bit of a delay between Rob and I here at the end, but we will let Rob kind of get out, and of course he'll be here on Tuesdays. And Thursdays. What you got there? Oh, there we lost him. He just kind of went out there. All right. Well, thank Rob. Faith on the Field airs. He had Harold Carmichael, I think, was his guest last week. 2 weeks ago was Harold Carmichael. Brandon Cooks was this last week. All right. Well, he always has really good guests on the show, and they talk about a lot of cool things. So check that out Saturday mornings at 8 here on 97.3 ESPN. All right. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. We'll get on out of here. Best of the Sports Bash tonight. Josh has the night off, so there's no game night tonight. I'm back to close out the show. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 5 things to go before we get out of here tonight. First off, number 1, it's the Phillies lineup tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays. The Phillies lineup is out, and their lineup tonight against the Rays is as followed. It will be Odubel Herrera leading off, playing left field. I'll give you the moves and everything as well. Segura playing second base. Bryce Harper in right field hitting third. Real Muto catching, hitting fourth. DD is a shortstop, hits fifth. Miller is the first baseman. He hits sixth. Torreyes hits seventh at third. Jankowski in center field. He hits eighth. Ranger Suarez is on the mound tonight, hitting ninth. That is number 1. Number 2, the Phillies have made a plethora of moves today, including announcing changes to the team's baseball operations department effective immediately. Ryan Maniti, Scott Profrock will no longer serve as assistant general managers. Both will serve as consultants for the rest of this season. Josh Bonifay will no longer serve as director of player development. He has been offered a professional scouting position for next year. Code word, they're all still getting paid. Jorge Valendia will oversee the Phillies player development system on an interim basis with the assistance of Dana Parks until a permanent replacement is hired. Sal Augustinelli will continue to oversee international scouting. He will report to Jorge Valendia. Finally, amateur scouting director Brian Barber, he will now report directly to Dombrowski. You got all that? Whew, big changes in the Phillies front office. Next up, Freddie Galvis reinstated from the injured list, so he is back with the team for the first time since being traded here. Sam Coonrod is back from the 60-day injured list and optioned out to Lehigh is Eniel De Los Santos, and outfielder Jorge Bonifacio has been designated for assignment. You got all that. So that is number 1 and number 2 tonight. Number 3, if you will, a couple of guys to keep an eye on in the Eagles-Jets game on Sunday. How about tight end undrafted rookie Jack Stahl, who had 4 catches for 33 yards in the Eagles' win over the Patriots with Tyree Jackson out, Jason Kroom injured. It looks like Jack Stahl has a chance to make the Phillies roster. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz, Richard Rodgers, those 3 you would imagine would make the team, but Stahl could be here as the 4th tight end. Keep an eye on him. Also, another guy to keep an eye on, Milton Williams on Friday night. We'll do more of these throughout the week, but these are guys who are on my mind as we get ready to close out a Tuesday show. Milton Williams, looking forward to see what he brings to the table in the game on Friday night. I think he'll get some playing time there. One thing about Milton Williams is his versatility, something I want to see on display on Friday night. How about in the game, Zach McPherson, a guy who I thought looked good, physical tackler, but he had a disappointing night defending on the outside. I thought you look at McPherson, he was starting with Steven Nelson on one side. Slay sat the game out. He was beat pretty consistently as the Patriots kind of picked on him. See, I got a chance to watch this game, and this was the game that was on Thursday night. The first game I didn't get a chance to see against Pittsburgh. This game I got a chance to see. And McPherson got picked on pretty good. I also thought he had a tough night on the who scored that touchdown for New England? Who was the wide receiver? Kobe Myers had the touchdown, and I think it was a missed tackle on the play there by McPherson up the sideline. That now he had 9 tackles in the game, but you got to keep in mind that they went right after him. So McPherson struggled a bit in that game as well. Also, thought Kayvon Wallace, who played a lot of second-team reps for the most part, got a chance to play with the first team on Thursday night, and he was also not so impressive because Wallace is the guy who was a 4th-round pick out of Clemson. He's a guy to keep an eye on. We'll see if he ends up playing. Travis Fulgham's another guy that we'll see. We just talked with Rob about on Friday night. Will they give him one more chance to kind of prove that he belongs? He's played a lot of first-team reps in a lot of camp, but he has kind of got passed on the depth chart, it looks like, by Quez Watkins. And as Andrew DeCecco told us earlier today, he kind of counts Watkins as one of the 4 receivers who definitely will make this team. Fulgham is not on that spot just yet. He had no catches. He was targeted once, so it looks like Fulgham's spot on this roster is kind of up in the air. Then I think you got the battle between Pryor and Herbig, if that is a battle, because what happens with Andre Dillard? Rob Motti just suggested keeping him. Why just give a former first-round pick away to get a 7th-round pick in return? See if you can mold him and make him a little bit better player and see if that will help his value out if he gets a chance to play due to injury. Not a bad, just don't give the guy away for a 7th-round pick because you deem that he can't play anymore. Something to that effect right there. Also, you looked at that game, you got Matt Pryor, who I think started at right tackle in the game against the Patriots, and then he moved over to left tackle later on in the game. He did not play very well. Would he be a guy, instead of trading Dillard, that Roseman can kind of move? So that's something else to keep an eye on in the post-Friday decisions after they figure out the Jets game. All right, now what are we going to do? Cut downs, because they got to get down to 53 by when? I'm not 100% sure. I know they got to get down to 80 after that Jet game. They changed the rule where they got to do it all at one time now. August 31st is when they have to be down. So that is Tuesday. That's what I thought, Tuesday. The Tuesday after the final game is when they have to get down to 53. Yes, next Tuesday. All right, that'll do it for the Sports Bash today. Tomorrow we're back. Mike McGarry, Jason Fitz, Jeff Bosher, Jeff Kerr. Good show. Thanks to everybody out there who listened. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock right here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Josh has the night off. No game night tonight. The best of the Sports Bash is coming up next. I'll talk to you tomorrow, too. Have a great night, everybody.